Welcome to the English Brain Accelerator, published by English Mindset Academy. You understand the English question and you know the answer, but your reply comes too slowly. While you translate, check grammar, search for words, and try to create a perfect sentence, the conversation moves on without you. This does not mean your English is weak, it means your brain has learned English for understanding, but it has not yet been trained to produce it quickly in real conversations. In this audiobook, you will learn how to shorten the time between hearing a question and giving your first reply. You will practice thinking in smaller English ideas, retrieving words faster, responding within seconds, and continuing even when your sentence is not perfect. Do not only listen, pause, answer aloud, and practice every method, because your English becomes faster through use, not through silent understanding. Stay until the final chapter, where you will receive a complete daily system for building real-time speaking speed. Now, let us train your brain to stop preparing English too late and start speaking while the conversation is still alive. Chapter 1. Why your brain produces English too slowly. You hear a question in English and for a moment you feel ready because you understand almost every word. The answer is already somewhere inside your mind, yet instead of speaking, your brain begins working through a long private process. First, you translate the question, then you create the answer in your own language. Search for English vocabulary, check the grammar, worry about pronunciation, and finally decide whether the sentence is safe enough to say. By the time you are ready, the conversation has already moved forward. This experience can make you believe that your English is weak, but often that is not the real problem. You may already know enough English to answer. Your difficulty is that your brain cannot access and organize that knowledge quickly under real conversational pressure. There is an important difference between recognizing English and producing English. When you listen, the speaker gives you the words, pronunciation, and sentence structure. Your brain only needs to recognize the meaning. When you speak, nobody gives you the language. Your brain must find the idea, retrieve the vocabulary, organize the grammar, and control your mouth at the same time. That is why you may understand a word immediately in a video but fail to remember the same word during a conversation. The word exists in your memory, but the pathway leading to it is still slow. Many learners strengthen recognition every day by watching videos, reading books, and studying vocabulary, but they rarely train fast retrieval. They keep putting English into the brain without regularly asking the brain to bring English back out. As a result, their passive English becomes strong while their active English remains slow. Imagine someone asks you, "What do you usually do on weekends?" You understand the question instantly. A simple answer could be, "I usually spend time with my family and finish the work I could not complete during the week." However, your mind may reject this sentence because it feels too ordinary. You begin searching for better vocabulary, a more impressive idea, and perfect grammar. The search creates pressure, and the pressure makes even simple words harder to retrieve. The first lesson of this chapter is that your first reply does not need to contain your entire answer, it only needs to begin the conversation. You can say, "I usually spend time with my family." Once your voice is moving, you can add, "We often have lunch together or visit relatives." Then you can continue. "I also try to prepare for the following week so that Monday feels less stressful." The complete answer grows while you speak. You do not need to prepare all 3 sentences before saying the first one. Fast speakers are not always thinking faster than you. They are often beginning earlier. They trust a simple first sentence and allow the deeper answer to develop afterward. Your second lesson is to stop building every reply from zero. Fluent speakers rely on familiar sentence beginnings that give their thoughts immediate direction. They may begin with, "I think the main reason is, from my experience, one thing I have noticed is." The first thing that comes to mind is, "I would say." These openings are useful because they remove the pressure of inventing the first few words. Once the beginning is available, your brain can focus on the real message. Suppose someone asks, "Why is English important to you?" Instead of silently preparing a perfect response, begin with, "I would say English is important to me because it creates more opportunities." Now add one detail. "It helps me communicate with people from different countries." Then add one personal example. For example, "I can understand more educational content and participate in conversations that were difficult for me before." This answer is clear, natural, and useful. It does not need advanced vocabulary to sound confident. The third lesson is to think in small meaning units rather than one large translated thought. A large thought creates pressure. "I want to explain how English will improve my career." confidence, travel experiences, communication skills, and future opportunities. Do not try to translate that entire thought at once. Break it into smaller parts. English is important for my career. It can help me communicate more confidently. I also want to use it while traveling. In the future, I hope it will open new opportunities. Each sentence carries one manageable piece of meaning. Your brain can produce one piece, release it, and then move to the next. This is how you reduce the distance between thought and speech. Your fourth lesson is that correcting every sentence before speaking makes your English slower. Grammar is important, but during a real conversation, meaning must come first. If you are trying to answer, "What did you do yesterday?" and your first thought is, "Yesterday I go to the market," you may notice the mistake and correct it naturally. "Yesterday I went to the market because I needed to buy a few things." The correction takes one moment. You do not need to stop, apologize, and restart the entire answer. Your goal is not to ignore grammar. Your goal is to prevent grammar checking from becoming so powerful that it silences you. There should be a time for speaking and a time for reviewing. During speaking, communicate the idea. Afterward, notice repeated mistakes and practice them calmly. Your fifth lesson is to train fast access, not only slow accuracy. Choose 5 simple questions every day and answer each one within 3 seconds. Do not write complete answers beforehand. You might practice questions such as, "What is one habit you want to improve? What do you enjoy doing in the evening? Why are you learning English? What is something useful you learned recently? Would you prefer to live in a city or a quiet place?" Your first sentence can be simple. The goal is teaching your brain to begin before overthinking takes control. For example, what is one habit you want to improve? "I want to become more consistent with exercise." Then continue. "The main reason is that I feel more energetic when I exercise regularly. At the moment, I start well but sometimes stop after a few days, so I am trying to create a simpler routine." You began quickly, and the answer grew naturally. Do not judge the practice by asking whether every sentence was perfect. Ask whether you began more quickly, whether you continued after a small mistake, and whether you expressed the main meaning clearly. These are signs that your real-time English is becoming stronger. Remember that speaking speed does not mean talking extremely fast. It means reducing the unnecessary delay before your first useful sentence. You can still speak calmly, pause naturally, and choose simple language. The goal is not rushing. The goal is responding while the conversation is still alive. From today, stop telling yourself, "My brain is too slow for English." Your brain is following the process you have repeated most often. If you repeatedly translate, edit, and wait for perfection, hesitation becomes automatic. But when you repeatedly begin with one simple idea, use familiar patterns, and expand while speaking, real-time English gradually becomes automatic too. Your first reply does not need to impress anyone. It only needs to arrive. Begin with the clearest thought. Use the English you already have. Let the next sentence develop after your voice is moving. Because the fastest way to improve your replies is not forcing your brain to produce a perfect answer more quickly. It is teaching your brain that it is allowed to begin before the entire answer is ready. Chapter 2. Stop translating the entire thought before you speak. One of the main reasons your English reply arrives too late is that your brain tries to complete the entire journey in your first language before it allows English to begin. You hear the question, translate it, build a detailed answer in your own language, search for equivalent English words, reorganize the grammar, and then examine the sentence carefully before speaking. This process may happen in only a few seconds, but during a real conversation, those seconds feel much longer because another person is looking at you, waiting for your response, and wondering whether you understood them. You may understand the question perfectly and still remain silent because the thought inside your mind has become too large to translate quickly. The more intelligent, detailed, or emotional the idea is, the heavier it becomes. Your brain is no longer translating one small sentence. It is trying to carry an entire paragraph from one language into another before your mouth is allowed to move. This is why simple conversations can sometimes feel more difficult than English exercises. In an exercise, you have time to think, translate, check the answer, and correct it. Real conversation does not wait for that complete process. It continues moving, and if your answer takes too long, someone else may begin speaking or the topic may change before your English is ready. The solution is not forcing yourself to stop using your first language completely from one day to the next. Translation is a natural stage of language learning, and it may continue appearing when the topic is unfamiliar or emotionally important. The real goal is to stop translating the entire finished thought before you begin speaking. You need to learn how to release English in smaller pieces. Imagine someone asks, Why do you want to improve your English? Inside your mind, you may have a long answer. You want to explain that English is important for your career, that you sometimes feel embarrassed during meetings, that you want to travel confidently, that you enjoy learning from international content, and that becoming fluent would change how you see yourself. If you try to prepare all of this before speaking, your answer becomes mentally heavy. You may begin translating one part, change the sentence, forget another part, worry about grammar, and eventually say only, because English is important. The problem was not that you had nothing to say. You had too much to organize before allowing yourself to begin. A faster approach is to choose the smallest clear part of your answer and say it immediately. I want to improve my English because it is important for my future. That sentence is enough to begin. Now your brain has more space to prepare the next small idea. It can help me communicate more confidently at work. Then another thought can follow. I also want to travel without becoming nervous during simple conversations. Then you can add a personal difficulty. At the moment, I understand many questions, but my answers sometimes come too slowly. Finally, you can finish with your goal. That is why I am training myself to think and respond more directly in English. The complete answer appeared while you were speaking. You did not need to see the entire response before saying the first sentence. This is one of the most important lessons in real-time fluency. You do not always discover the complete answer before you speak. Sometimes you discover it through speaking. Fluent communication is not only the delivery of perfectly prepared thoughts, it is also the process of organizing thoughts while your voice is already moving. When you speak in your first language, you probably do this without noticing. You may begin a sentence before knowing exactly how you will finish it. You trust your language enough to start, and as you continue, the next words appear. You may change direction, add an example, repeat something more clearly, or suddenly realize what you truly want to say. Your goal is to develop the same trust in English. The first method is called small meaning units. A small meaning unit is one complete piece of information that is easy enough to express without building a complicated sentence. Instead of carrying one large idea, you divide it into several smaller ideas and release them one at a time. Consider this thought. I want to become fluent in English because I have missed several opportunities in the past. I become nervous when speaking with confident people, and I want to express my real personality without feeling limited by language. This is meaningful, but it is heavy. Divide it. I want to become fluent in English. In the past, I have missed some opportunities. I also become nervous around confident speakers. Sometimes my personality feels hidden because I cannot express myself quickly. I want English to become a natural part of the way I communicate. Each sentence carries one clear piece of meaning. You can connect them naturally, but you do not need to prepare them all at once. A learner often believes that fluent speech requires long and advanced sentences. In reality, clear short sentences connected naturally can sound far more fluent than one complicated sentence that takes 20 seconds to produce. Do not measure fluency by sentence length. Measure it by the movement of meaning. If your meaning moves from one sentence to the next without long panic, your English is functioning. The second method is called speak the beginning, build the middle. Many learners wait because they believe the middle and ending of the answer must be ready before the beginning can be spoken. Reverse this habit. Prepare only the direction. Someone asks, do you prefer working alone or with other people? You do not need a full speech. Choose your basic position. I usually prefer working alone. Now explain why. The main reason is that I can concentrate more easily. Then add balance. However, working with others can be useful when a task requires different ideas. Then give a personal example. For example, I enjoy completing focused tasks alone, but I prefer discussing difficult problems with a team. Then conclude. So my preference depends on the type of work. The answer was not memorized. It grew from one clear beginning. This method reduces pressure because your first responsibility is small. You only need to choose the first honest statement. Once that statement exists, it begins creating questions that produce the next sentences. I prefer working alone. Why? Because I concentrate more easily. Is it always better? No. Teamwork is useful for some tasks. Can you give an example? Yes, I work alone when I need focus, but I ask others for ideas when solving a difficult problem. Your own first sentence becomes a guide. The third method is to replace exact translation with direct meaning. Many learners become slow because they search for an English sentence that matches their original language sentence word for word. However, languages do not always organize ideas in exactly the same way. The more you demand a perfect match, the longer the answer takes. Instead of asking, how do I translate this exact sentence? Ask, What is the simple meaning I want to communicate? Suppose you have a complicated expression in your first language that means you were deeply disappointed because someone failed to keep a promise. You may not know the exact English translation. You can still say, "I felt very disappointed because the person promised to help me, but they did not come." The wording may be simpler than your original thought, but the meaning survives. This is successful communication. Perhaps you want to describe a difficult workplace atmosphere but cannot remember advanced words such as toxic, unprofessional, or hostile. You can say, "The environment was difficult because people did not respect each other, and small problems often became unnecessary arguments." You did not translate one perfect phrase. You explained the meaning with the English available to you. Simple explanation is faster than exact translation. The fourth method is to create English reactions to daily life. Thinking directly in English does not begin with deep philosophical ideas. It begins with small observations that connect real experiences to simple English. When you wake up, think, "I still feel tired. I need to get ready quickly. I have an important task this morning." When you are traveling, think, "The traffic is heavier than usual. I may arrive a little late. I should send a message." When you complete some work, think, "That was more difficult than I expected. I made one mistake, but I corrected it. The next task should be easier." When you are deciding what to eat, think, "I do not feel very hungry. I want something light. I ate too much earlier." These sentences may seem extremely simple, but they are building a direct path from experience to English. You see, feel, remember, or decide something, and English responds without waiting for a complete translation. The purpose is not speaking to yourself every second. The purpose is creating regular moments when English becomes your first response to an ordinary situation. Begin with 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Describe what you are doing. Explain why you are doing it. Predict what may happen next. For example, "I am preparing my desk because I need to focus. There are too many things in front of me, and they are becoming distracting. Once I organize everything, I will begin with the most important task." This is a small English thought chain. It trains direct production without the pressure of another person waiting. The fifth method is to use simple English before advanced English. Your brain often produces a useful simple sentence quickly, but perfectionism rejects it. You may think, "That sounds too basic," and begin searching for something more impressive. This search creates delay. Suppose someone asks, "How was your trip?" The simple answer appears, "It was very enjoyable," but you reject it because it sounds ordinary. You search for remarkable, unforgettable, fascinating, or another advanced word. While searching, the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Use the available sentence. "It was very enjoyable. I visited several beautiful places and met some friendly people. The best part was experiencing a different culture." Simple language opened the door to a stronger answer. Advanced words are valuable when they appear naturally, but they should not become a requirement for beginning. A clear, simple answer delivered on time is more effective than an advanced answer delivered after the moment has disappeared. The sixth method is called one thought, one sentence. When your English is slow, do not force several ideas into one long structure. Give each important idea its own sentence. Instead of saying, "Although I enjoy working from home because it gives me more flexibility and saves travel time, I sometimes find it difficult because there are distractions and I miss speaking with colleagues, which is why I think a combination of home and office work is better." You can say, "I enjoy working from home because it gives me more flexibility. It also saves traveling time. However, there are many distractions at home, and sometimes I miss speaking with my colleagues. For this reason, I think a combination of home and office work is the best option for me." The second version is easier to produce, easier to understand, and easier to continue. Long sentences are not always signs of fluency. Sometimes they are signs that the speaker is carrying too much information at once. Give your brain space. Complete one thought. Release it. Then begin the next one. The seventh method is to stop translating familiar conversation functions. Certain situations happen again and again. You express opinions, give reasons, describe experiences, disagree politely, ask for clarification, or explain that you need time to think. These functions should gradually become available without translation. For giving an opinion, practice. "I think, in my opinion, the way I see it, I would say." For giving a reason, the main reason is, one reason for this is mainly because. For describing experience, in my experience, one thing I have noticed is, I remember a time when. For clarification, what I mean is, let me explain that more clearly. In other words, for contrast. However, on the other hand, at the same time, for conclusions. For this reason, overall, I believe that is why. You do not need dozens of phrases in each category. Choose one or two that feel natural. Use them repeatedly until your mouth can produce them without waiting for your first language. These phrases are not complete answers. They are pathways that help the answer begin. The 8th method is English first preparation. When you know you may need English for a meeting, interview, phone call, presentation, or social situation, do not prepare everything in your first language and translate it afterward. Begin with simple English ideas from the start. Before a meeting, think, what is the main update I need to give? What problem may they ask about? What solution can I suggest? Then create short English points. The project is almost complete. We are waiting for final approval. One part was delayed because we needed more information. I believe we can finish by Thursday. These are flexible ideas, not memorized paragraphs. During the meeting, you can expand them naturally. Memorizing a complete translation can create danger because if the conversation changes, your prepared script may no longer be useful. English first points give you more flexibility. The 9th method is to practice quick choices. Translation becomes stronger when your mind sees too many possible answers and refuses to choose one. You consider 5 ideas, compare several words, and wait for the best option. Real-time speaking requires the ability to choose one acceptable direction quickly. Someone asks, what is the most important quality in a friend? Many answers may be possible. Honesty, loyalty, kindness, patience, understanding, or support. Do not search for the perfect universal answer. Choose one. I think honesty is one of the most important qualities. Now develop it. The reason is that trust becomes difficult when people hide the truth. A good friend may say something uncomfortable, but they say it because they care about you. Your answer does not need to include every possible quality. A clear direction creates speed. Indecision creates silence. Practice questions with several possible answers and force yourself to select one within 3 seconds. What is the best way to relax? What is the most useful skill? What makes a good leader? What is one habit everyone should develop? What is the biggest problem with social media? Your goal is not finding the only correct answer. Your goal is selecting one meaningful answer and building from it. The 10th method is called translation reduction, not translation war. Some learners become frustrated because they still notice their first language appearing. They tell themselves, I must never translate, and then become anxious every time translation happens. Do not fight your brain aggressively. A first language is deeply connected to your thinking. It will not disappear because you criticize yourself. Instead, slowly create faster English pathways that become easier to use. When translation appears, simplify the process. If the full thought feels too difficult, reduce it. If an exact word is missing, explain it. If grammar becomes complicated, choose a shorter sentence. If your first language structure does not fit naturally, express the basic meaning another way. Progress means the translation stage becomes shorter, lighter, and less necessary over time. It does not mean you must achieve a completely English-only mind immediately. The 11th method is to use timed meaning practice. Choose one simple topic and give yourself 10 seconds to think in English, not to write or translate. Topic: a habit I want to improve. During those 10 seconds, choose 3 English keywords: sleep, phone, morning. Now speak. One habit I want to improve is sleeping earlier. I often use my phone at night, and this makes it difficult to wake up with enough energy in the morning. I want to leave my phone away from the bed and create a calmer evening routine. The keywords guided the meaning. Try another topic. A useful lesson I learned. Keywords: mistake, patience, improvement, speak. One useful lesson I learned is that mistakes are necessary for improvement. In the past, I became frustrated whenever I did something incorrectly. Now I try to understand what happened and make a better attempt. This practice teaches your mind to organize English ideas without preparing a full translated script. The 12th method is continue before correcting. Translation and perfectionism often work together. You speak one sentence, notice a small problem, return mentally to repair it, and lose the next thought. Suppose you say, "My brother works in a bank." You notice the grammar mistake. Correct it briefly. My brother works in a bank, and he has been there for almost 3 years. The answer continues. Do not attack yourself. Do not apologize several times. Do not restart from the beginning. A calm correction protects both accuracy and flow. If the mistake does not damage meaning, you may continue and review it later. The real danger is not one small grammar error. The real danger is allowing that error to pull your attention backward while the conversation is moving forward. The 13th method is called answer first, improve second. During practice, record one spontaneous answer without preparation. Then listen and create a stronger second version. Question: why is exercise important? First attempt. Exercise is important because it is good for health, it gives energy, and helps people feel better. This answer is simple but successful. Now improve it. Exercise is important because it supports both physical and mental health. Regular movement can improve energy, reduce stress, and help people sleep better. For this reason, even a short daily walk can be valuable. The second answer is stronger because you had time to review, but the first answer trained real-time production. You need both. Spontaneous speaking builds speed. Review builds accuracy and depth. Do not demand reviewed quality from every first attempt. The 14th method is to notice when translation is actually useful. Translation is not always your enemy. It may help you understand a difficult concept, compare grammar, or learn the meaning of a new word. The problem begins when translation becomes the required first step before every ordinary sentence. Use translation as a learning tool when needed, but do not allow it to control familiar communication. You should not need a complete translation process to say, "I agree, I do not understand, I need more time, that was difficult, I enjoyed the experience, I think the main reason is, I am not sure, but..." These everyday functions should gradually become direct. Focus first on making common English automatic. Once the common pathways become fast, your brain has more energy for complex ideas. The 15th method is to develop topic familiarity in English. Your replies become faster when you have already thought about the topic in English before the conversation. Create small English networks around common subjects: your work, your family, your hometown, your daily routine, your English learning journey, your future goals, your favorite activities, your opinions about technology. For each topic, practice answering 5 different questions. For your English journey: why did you start learning? What is your biggest difficulty? What method helps you most? How has your English changed? What is your next goal? Do not memorize exact answers. Become familiar with expressing those areas in English. When someone asks a related question, your brain will not be entering completely unknown territory. It will have existing English paths to follow. The final practice in this chapter is called the Small Thought Challenge. Choose one question. What change do you want to make in your life? Do not prepare a long answer. Begin with one small sentence. I want to become more disciplined. Add one reason. I often delay important tasks even when I know they must be completed. Add an example. For example, I sometimes check my phone before beginning work, and then I lose valuable time. Add a change. I am now trying to start my most important task before opening social media. Add a result. I believe this will help me feel calmer and more in control of my day. You did not translate a complete paragraph. You built the answer one meaning unit at a time. Practice this process with 3 questions every day. Begin before the entire answer is ready. Keep each idea manageable, use simple English, allow the response to grow. Remember, your goal is not removing your first language from your mind by force. Your goal is building a faster road from meaning to English. Every direct reaction strengthens that road. Every small meaning unit makes it easier to continue. Every simple sentence spoken on time weakens the habit of waiting for a perfect translation. Your first language may still appear, especially when the idea is complex, but it no longer needs to control the entire journey. Begin with what you can say directly. Release one clear thought, then let the next thought follow. Because real-time English does not begin when your complete translation is finally ready. It begins the moment you trust one simple English idea enough to speak it. Chapter 3: The 3-second reply system. Many English learners do not become silent because they have no answer. They become silent because they believe the complete answer must be ready before the first word can leave their mouth. They hear a question, begin searching for the perfect response, compare several sentence structures, reject simple vocabulary, and wait until every part feels safe. During those few seconds, pressure grows, familiar words become harder to retrieve, and the reply that was originally possible begins disappearing. This chapter will teach you a different way to respond. You do not need to create your entire answer in 3 seconds. You only need to choose one clear direction and begin speaking before overthinking takes control. Once your first sentence is moving, your brain gains more time to prepare the second sentence, and the conversation begins helping you instead of frightening you. This method is called the 3-second reply system, and it contains 3 simple stages: start, state, and expand. The first stage is start. When someone asks you a question, allow yourself a brief moment to understand it, but do not wait until a complete speech has been prepared. Use one familiar opening that gives your mind a natural entrance into the answer. You might begin with, "I think the main reason is, from my experience." The first thing that comes to mind is, "I would say, there are several reasons, but..." That is an interesting question because these openings are not meaningless fillers. They give your brain a few valuable seconds while also showing the listener that your answer has begun. Suppose someone asks, "What is the best way to improve English?" Instead of remaining silent while planning 5 points, begin, "I think the best way is to use English actively every day." You have now entered the conversation. Your answer is not complete, but it has direction. The second stage is state. State one clear central idea that you can explain. Do not try to mention every possible answer. Choose one reasonable point and trust it. For the question, what makes a person successful, many ideas may appear: discipline, talent, confidence, patience, education, luck, hard work, or consistency. Searching for the perfect answer may make you slow. Choose one. "I think consistency is one of the most important qualities." That sentence gives your brain a strong path. The third stage is expand. Once the main idea has been stated, develop it through a reason, detail, example, contrast, experience, or result. You might continue. The reason is that talent becomes less useful when a person cannot repeat the necessary work. For example, someone may have excellent ideas, but without consistent action, those ideas remain unfinished. That is why I believe small daily effort often creates better results than occasional motivation. The full answer developed after you began speaking. This is the central lesson of the 3-second reply system. Your first sentence does not need to finish the answer, it needs to open it. Consider the question, do you prefer living in a city or a quiet place? A learner may begin debating both sides internally. Cities offer jobs, education, transport, entertainment, and convenience. Quiet places offer peace, space, cleaner air, and less stress. Because there are many possible ideas, the learner cannot choose and becomes silent. Use the system. Start. I would say. State. I would say I prefer living in a quieter place. Expand. The main reason is that constant noise and traffic make it difficult for me to relax. However, I would still want to live close enough to a city to access better services and career opportunities. For me, the ideal situation would be a peaceful area outside a large city. The answer sounds balanced, but it began with one simple choice. You did not need to prepare the contrast or conclusion in advance. They appeared after the central direction became clear. This system is powerful because hesitation often comes from too many possibilities, not from too little English. Your brain sees several answers and tries to evaluate all of them before speaking. Real-time communication requires you to choose one useful direction quickly and develop it. You are not writing an academic essay. You are responding to another human being. The listener does not expect the most perfect answer ever created. They expect a clear beginning that keeps the conversation alive. Another reason learners delay their replies is that they judge their first thought too harshly. A simple answer appears, but they immediately reject it. Someone asks, "What do you do when you feel stressed?" Your first thought is, "I usually go for a walk." That is a perfectly useful beginning, but you may reject it because it sounds basic. You search for a more advanced idea, and the answer becomes slower. Use the available thought. "I usually go for a walk when I feel stressed." Now expand it. "Walking helps me leave the situation for a short time and organize my thoughts more calmly. I normally avoid using my phone during the walk because I want my mind to become quieter. When I return, the problem often feels more manageable." The answer became meaningful because you developed a simple truth. Never underestimate a basic first sentence. A simple sentence can carry a deep explanation when you remain with it long enough. The 3-second reply system does not mean rushing your speech. You can begin quickly and still speak calmly. Reply speed and speaking speed are not the same thing. Reply speed is the time between hearing the question and beginning your answer. Speaking speed is how quickly you pronounce the words after beginning. Your goal is to reduce unnecessary silence before the first useful sentence, not to speak so quickly that pronunciation, clarity, and control disappear. A calm speaker who begins within a few seconds often sounds more confident than a fast speaker who produces disconnected ideas. You must also understand that 3 seconds is a training target, not a punishment. Some thoughtful, technical, or emotional questions naturally require more time. In those situations, you can use a thinking phrase honestly. I have never considered that before, but my first reaction is, there are several ways to answer that, so let me begin with the most important one. I would need more information to give a complete answer, but from what I understand, these phrases protect the interaction while allowing your mind to organize a response. Suppose someone asks, "Do you think technology is making people less intelligent?" You may not have a prepared opinion. Begin. I have not thought about that question deeply, but I think technology can make people both more capable and more dependent. Now expand one side. It gives us faster access to information and useful tools. Then add contrast. However, if people accept every answer without thinking or checking it, their independent judgment may become weaker. Then conclude. So I do not think technology automatically reduces intelligence. The effect depends on how people use it. You created a thoughtful answer without needing a prepared speech. This method teaches you to think while speaking. That ability is essential because real conversations contain questions you cannot predict. You cannot memorize answers for every possible topic, but you can train a reliable process for entering almost any answer. The next skill is choosing the correct size for your first idea. Some learners begin with an idea that is too large. Education is one of the most complicated and important systems in society because it influences economic development, personal identity, social opportunity, technology, culture, and the sentence becomes difficult before the main point is clear. Choose a smaller starting idea. I think one of the most important purposes of education is teaching people how to think independently. Now you have something manageable to explain. Students need facts, but they also need to question information, compare different ideas, and make responsible decisions. Without independent thinking, education can become memorization instead of real understanding. A smaller first idea often produces a stronger answer because it gives you control. When a question feels too broad, reduce it. If someone asks, "What is the biggest problem in society?" choose one area. I think one major problem is the lack of honest communication. If someone asks, "How has technology changed life?" choose one change. One major change is the speed of communication. If someone asks, "What makes people happy?" choose one factor. I believe meaningful relationships are one of the strongest sources of happiness. You are not required to cover the entire subject. One clearly developed angle is better than 10 unfinished ideas. The next part of the system is learning how to expand the first sentence without losing direction. After stating your central idea, use one of 5 reliable questions. Why do I believe this? Can I give an example? What happened in my experience? Is there another side? What is the result? Suppose the question is, should people exercise every day? Start and state. I think some form of daily movement is extremely valuable. Ask why. The main reason is that the human body is not designed to remain inactive for long periods. Give an example. Even a 20-minute walk can improve energy and help someone clear their mind. Add balance. However, daily exercise does not need to be intense because the body also needs rest. Conclude. So the goal should be consistent movement rather than exhausting training every day. These questions prevent your brain from becoming empty because each one tells you what kind of sentence to produce next. When you do not know how to expand, do not ask, "What brilliant sentence can I say now?" Ask a smaller question such as, "Why?" or "Can I give an example?" Small questions create usable answers. Another powerful exercise is called the 3-second opinion drill. Choose 10 common opinion questions and answer each one within 3 seconds. Your first answer should contain one clear position. For example, is social media helpful or harmful? I think it can be helpful when it is used with clear limits. Is working from home better? I think it is better for some tasks, but not for every person. Should children use smartphones? I think they should use them carefully and with adult guidance. Is money the most important part of a career? No. I think purpose and personal growth are also important. After stating your position, speak for 30 to 60 seconds. Do not research the topic. Do not search for a perfect answer. The purpose is training, decision, and development. You may change your mind while speaking, and that is acceptable. You can say, "At first I would say working from home is better because it saves time. However, after thinking about it, I believe a mixed system may be more practical because people also need collaboration and social interaction." Real thinking can develop during the answer. The next exercise is called the 3-second personal reply drill. Personal questions should often be easier because the information already belongs to you, yet learners still hesitate because they try to make the answer sound impressive. Practice questions such as, "What is one goal you have? What habit do you want to change? What makes you feel confident? What is something you learned recently? What type of work do you enjoy? What was one difficult experience in your life?" Answer quickly and honestly. What is one habit you want to change? I want to stop checking my phone immediately after waking up. Now explain. This habit makes my morning feel distracted before the day has properly begun. I want to use the first 30 minutes for planning, breakfast, and one important task. I believe this small change would improve my focus. The answer feels natural because it contains a real personal meaning. Do not create a fictional version of yourself to sound more interesting. Honest ideas are easier to retrieve, expand, and remember. Another exercise is called Start Before You Know the Ending. Choose one question and deliberately begin before you know your conclusion. Question: What is one important lesson you have learned? Begin. One important lesson I have learned is that waiting for perfect conditions can waste a lot of time. Now allow the answer to grow. In the past, I sometimes delayed important actions because I believed I needed more confidence, preparation, or motivation. However, I noticed that confidence usually appeared after I started, not before. Because of this, I now try to begin with one small step, even when I do not feel completely ready. You may not have known the final lesson when you started, but each sentence revealed the next part. This exercise develops trust. A slow English brain often does not trust itself. It demands complete certainty before speaking. A real-time English brain trusts that one clear thought can create another. You must also train yourself to accept imperfect openings. Perhaps you begin. I think the most important reason is, one important reason is, this small repair is natural. Perhaps you say, I prefer working alone. Correct it and continue. Perhaps your first point does not feel strong enough. My first thought is that technology saves time. Although I think the deeper advantage is access to information. You are allowed to adjust. Fluency is not producing a perfect path from beginning to end. It is remaining active when the path changes. The greatest enemy of fast replies is often the belief that the listener is judging every sentence. When you imagine constant judgment, your brain becomes defensive. It checks every word before releasing it, and speaking becomes slower. Shift your purpose. Do not ask, "How can I prove that my English is excellent?" Ask, "How can I help this person understand my meaning?" Communication becomes lighter when your goal is sharing rather than performing. If you say, "I believe this option is better because it saves time," and the listener understands you, the sentence has succeeded. It does not need to be the most advanced sentence you know. The 3-second reply system should become part of your daily routine. Practice it for 10 minutes using the following process. Choose 5 questions. Give yourself 3 seconds before each answer. Begin with one familiar opening. State one central idea. Expand it with a reason and example. Finish with a short conclusion. Do not restart after mistakes. After finishing all 5 answers, listen to your recording and review only 3 things. Did I begin within a reasonable time? Was my first idea clear? Did I expand the idea instead of repeating it? Do not begin by counting every grammar error. The first goal is creating a faster and more reliable response process. Once the process becomes stronger, you can improve grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation inside it. Another useful practice is to use the system during listening. When watching an interview, pause immediately after the interviewer asks a question. Give your own response within 3 seconds before listening to the guest's answer. The guest may choose a completely different direction, and that is fine. You are not trying to predict their exact words. You are training your brain to respond to real questions in real time. You can also pause a film or conversation after one character says something and imagine your reply. Someone says, "I have been feeling tired recently." You might respond, "I am sorry to hear that. Do you think it is because of work or lack of sleep?" Someone says, "I am thinking about changing my job." You might say, "That is a big decision. What is making you consider the change?" Fast speaking is not only answering questions, it is reacting, showing interest, and continuing interaction. The next stage is practicing with follow-up questions. Give your first answer, then immediately ask yourself a related question. You say, "I want to improve my time management." Ask, Why? Because I often underestimate how long tasks will take. Ask, can you give an example? For example, I may plan to finish 3 large tasks in one afternoon, and then I feel disappointed when I complete only one. Ask, what will you change? I want to create a more realistic schedule and leave extra time for unexpected problems. This exercise trains speed beyond the opening sentence. It teaches your brain to stay active as the conversation develops. The final challenge in this chapter is the 10 questions without restarting challenge. Choose 10 ordinary questions. Answer each one for at least 45 seconds. Give yourself no more than 3 seconds before beginning, and do not restart even when the first sentence is imperfect. Use questions such as, what is one thing you would change about your hometown? What makes a person trustworthy? What is the most useful thing you learned from a mistake? Do you prefer planning or being spontaneous? How has technology affected your daily routine? What is one fear you want to overcome? What makes learning difficult? What is the best way to build confidence? What advice would you give your younger self? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years? During every answer, follow the same path. Start, state, expand. When your mind slows down, add a reason. When the reason is clear, give an example. When the example is complete, describe the result. When you have communicated the main idea, conclude. After completing the challenge, do not ask whether you sounded perfect. Ask whether you remained available to the conversation. Did your voice begin before fear became too strong? Did simple words carry your meaning? Did one sentence create another? Did you continue after a mistake? That is the progress this chapter is designed to create. Remember that fast replies are not produced by forcing your brain to panic more quickly. They are produced by simplifying the job your brain must perform. Do not prepare everything. Choose one direction. Do not search for every word. Use the words already available. Do not create the full answer silently. Build it while speaking. Do not wait for confidence. Let beginning create confidence. The next time someone asks you a question, do not enter a long private meeting inside your own mind. Give yourself a brief moment. Choose the first clear thought. Let your voice begin. Your answer can become deeper after it becomes alive. 3 seconds are enough to open the door. You do not need to know every sentence waiting on the other side. Start, state, expand, and allow real-time English to begin. Chapter 4. Train your brain to retrieve English words faster. You may know thousands of English words when you read or listen, but the moment you begin speaking, even the simplest vocabulary can suddenly disappear. You recognize the word when another person says it, you understand it when you see it in a book, and sometimes you can even remember exactly where you learned it. Yet during a real conversation, your brain cannot bring it forward quickly enough. This experience can make you believe that your memory is weak, but the deeper problem is often not memory. The problem is retrieval. There is a major difference between recognizing a word and retrieving it. Recognition happens when the word is already in front of you. You hear confident, and your brain understands it. You read opportunity, and the meaning appears. Retrieval is different because your brain must search for the word without seeing or hearing it first. Speaking depends on retrieval. This explains why you may understand a conversation but struggle to join it. Your passive vocabulary may be large, but your active vocabulary is smaller because many words have not been practiced enough for fast use. The goal of this chapter is not to fill your mind with hundreds of new words. It is to make the English you already know easier to access when real conversations demand it. The first lesson is to stop learning vocabulary as isolated information. Many learners study a word, memorize its translation, repeat it several times, and then move to the next word. This may help them recognize the word later, but it does not show the brain how to use that word inside real communication. For example, learning only the word decision is not enough. You should also learn the language that naturally surrounds it. I need to make a decision. It was a difficult decision. I have not decided yet. The reason for my decision was, I finally decided to. Now the word is connected to several speaking pathways. When you need it during conversation, your brain does not have to create the entire sentence from nothing. The same is true for the word confidence. Do not learn only the meaning. Learn useful combinations. I lost my confidence. I am becoming more confident. This experience gave me confidence. I was not confident enough to speak. My confidence improved through practice. Vocabulary becomes faster when it lives inside complete and reusable language groups. These groups are often called chunks. A chunk is a small collection of words your brain can retrieve as one unit instead of building every part separately. Consider the phrase. One of the main reasons is that, if you know this as a complete unit, your brain does not need to search separately for one main reason, is, and that. The beginning appears together, giving you more mental space to focus on the idea that follows. Other useful chunks include, what I have noticed is, from my point of view, a good example would be, the biggest difference is, as a result, at the same time. The main problem is, what I learned from this was, fluent speech is often built from familiar chunks carrying new meanings. The structure remains available while the content changes. You can say, one of the main reasons I am learning English is that I want better career opportunities. One of the main reasons people lose motivation is that they expect immediate results. One of the main reasons exercise is valuable is that it improves both physical and mental health. The chunk stays the same, but it helps you express different ideas. Your first practical method is called word-to-sentence training. Choose one useful word and create 5 personal sentences with it. The sentences should be connected to your real life because personal meaning makes vocabulary easier to retrieve. Take the word improve. My English has improved during the last few months. I want to improve the way I manage my time. Daily speaking practice can improve my confidence. One thing I need to improve is my pronunciation. I improved faster when I stopped being afraid of mistakes. Do not only read the sentences silently. Say them aloud. Then close your notes and try to create one new sentence without looking. This final step is important because looking at a word trains recognition, while producing it without help trains retrieval. Now take the phrase, deal with. I need to learn how to deal with pressure. I dealt with a difficult customer yesterday. Walking helps me deal with stress. Some people avoid problems instead of dealing with them. I am becoming better at dealing with unexpected questions. Through repetition, the phrase becomes easier to access because your brain has used it in several contexts. The second method is called category retrieval. Your vocabulary is often stored in groups, even when you do not notice it. When one word from a category appears, related words can become easier to retrieve. Choose one topic and name as many related words as possible within 30 seconds. For travel, you might say airport, passport, ticket, luggage, journey, flight, hotel, reservation, delay, destination, map, transport, tourist, guide, departure, arrival. Then choose 5 of those words and use them in a short spoken answer. My flight was delayed, so I had to wait at the airport for several hours. I was worried because my hotel reservation had a fixed arrival time, but I contacted the hotel and explained the situation. When I finally reached my destination, my luggage arrived safely, and everything became easier. The first stage activates the vocabulary. The second stage teaches your brain how to use it inside connected speech. Practice with categories such as work, education, family, health, technology, food, emotions, travel, communication, and daily routines. Do not worry when the same common words appear repeatedly. Common vocabulary is valuable because it is used frequently in real conversations. Your goal is not producing the most advanced list. Your goal is retrieving useful language quickly. The third method is called situation-based vocabulary. Instead of learning random words, organize vocabulary around situations you may actually experience. Consider a job interview. Useful language might include experience, responsibility, strength, challenge, teamwork, deadline, improvement, achievement, goal, opportunity. Now create complete responses. One of my strengths is remaining calm when a problem appears. My previous role taught me how to work under strict deadlines. One achievement I am proud of is completing a difficult project with a small team. The biggest challenge was learning how to communicate clearly with different departments. My long-term goal is to take more responsibility and continue developing professionally. You are not memorizing one fixed interview speech. You are making important vocabulary available for several possible questions. For travel, practice language around asking for directions, explaining a problem, checking into a hotel, ordering food, and requesting help. For meetings, practice agreeing, disagreeing, asking for clarification, giving updates, explaining delays, and offering suggestions. For social conversations, practice introducing yourself, asking follow-up questions, describing interests, telling short stories, and reacting naturally. Vocabulary becomes faster when your brain knows where it belongs. The fourth method is rapid paraphrasing. Many learners freeze because they believe one specific word is required. The word disappears and the entire message stops. But meaning rarely depends on only one word. Suppose you forget exhausted. You can say, I was extremely tired. I had almost no energy left. I was so tired that I could hardly continue. Suppose you forget generous. You can say, he is always willing to help and share what he has. Suppose you forget crowded. You can say, there were so many people that it was difficult to move. Suppose you forget appointment. You can say, I had a planned meeting at a particular time. Paraphrasing gives your brain another road toward the same meaning. This skill is essential because even fluent speakers sometimes forget words. Their conversation survives because they do not treat the missing word as the only possible entrance to the idea. Use phrases such as, I cannot remember the exact word, but it is something that, it is a person who. It means a situation where, it is similar to, it is the opposite of. You use it when, for example, I cannot remember the exact word, but it is the machine people use to heat food very quickly. The listener may say, a microwave? You can respond, yes, exactly. The conversation continues, and the missing word may become easier to remember next time because it appeared inside a meaningful interaction. Your fifth method is called active recall before review. Many learners look at vocabulary again and again, but they rarely test whether they can produce it without help. Rereading creates familiarity, and familiarity can feel like mastery, but it does not guarantee retrieval. Before looking at yesterday's vocabulary list, close the notebook and ask yourself what you remember. If the topic was personality, try to retrieve patient, honest, reliable, confident, generous, stubborn, thoughtful, responsible. Then use each word in one sentence. He is reliable because he always does what he promises. I need to become more patient when progress feels slow. She is thoughtful and notices when other people need help. I used to be less confident during presentations. After attempting retrieval, open the notes and check what was missing. This struggle is useful. Every time your brain searches for a word, the pathway becomes stronger, even when the word does not appear immediately. Do not avoid retrieval because it feels difficult. The difficulty is part of the training. The sixth method is vocabulary rotation. You do not need to study 50 new words every day. Choose a small group and use it repeatedly across several days. For 1 week, select 10 useful words or chunks. Use each one in speaking, writing, storytelling, and personal reflection. Suppose your weekly group includes deal with, improve, realize, opportunity, confident, as a result, in the past, one reason is, depend on, make progress. On the first day, create personal sentences. On the second day, answer questions using the vocabulary. On the third day, tell a story containing several items. On the fourth day, speak about work or study using the same language. On the fifth day, record a 2-minute answer without looking at the list. On the sixth day, review the words that still feel slow. On the seventh day, use them during a spontaneous conversation challenge. Repeated active use turns unfamiliar vocabulary into automatic vocabulary. 10 words you can use naturally are more valuable than 100 words you only recognize. The seventh method is called retrieve through questions. Questions can activate vocabulary because they give words a reason to appear. Instead of memorizing the word challenge, answer, what challenge are you facing at the moment? One challenge I am facing is staying consistent with my English practice. What makes this challenge difficult? It becomes difficult when my daily schedule changes. How are you dealing with it? I am dealing with it by creating a shorter routine that I can complete even on busy days. What have you realized? I have realized that consistency is more important than studying for many hours occasionally. One word becomes part of a complete speaking chain. Use questions for new vocabulary. When have I experienced this? Why is this word important to me? Can I connect it to my work? Can I describe a person using it? Can I tell a story containing it? Can I explain the opposite meaning? Personal questions create deeper memory because the vocabulary becomes connected to your experiences, emotions, and opinions. The eighth method is fast opposites and comparisons. Words become easier to retrieve when they are connected to related or opposite meanings. For example, confident and nervous, patient and impatient, reliable and unreliable, flexible and strict, temporary and permanent, advantage and disadvantage, success and failure, improve and decline. Now create comparisons. In the past, I felt nervous during English conversations, but now I am becoming more confident. A flexible schedule can be helpful, but without discipline, it may become unproductive. This solution may create a temporary improvement, but it will not solve the permanent problem. Contrast creates stronger memory because your brain is not storing one isolated word. It is building a relationship between ideas. You can also compare similar words. Angry and frustrated are related, but they are not always identical. Tired and exhausted describe different levels of energy. Job and career can appear in similar conversations, but a career usually refers to long-term professional development. Understanding relationships makes vocabulary more flexible. The ninth method is called use before you feel ready. Some learners wait until they understand a word perfectly before using it. They may study the meaning, pronunciation, grammar, synonyms, and examples for weeks, but still avoid the word during speech. Vocabulary becomes active through use. You may make small mistakes at first. That is normal. Suppose you learn the phrase, take responsibility. Use it. I need to take responsibility for my progress. A good leader takes responsibility when something goes wrong. I avoided taking responsibility in the past, but I am trying to change. If the phrase feels unnatural, listen to correct examples and adjust it. Do not return it to silent memory. The mouth must practice what the mind has learned. The 10th method is speak around the word before speaking with the word. Sometimes you understand a new word but cannot yet use it comfortably. Begin by explaining the idea in simpler English. Suppose the word is procrastination. First say, procrastination means delaying something even when you know it should be done. Then connect it personally. I sometimes procrastinate when a task feels too large. Then give an example. For example, I may check messages instead of beginning difficult work. Then explain the result. As a result, the task becomes more stressful later. Now the word is surrounded by meaning. It no longer exists only as a translation. The 11th method is story retrieval. Stories naturally activate verbs, emotions, places, people, and time expressions. This makes them one of the strongest vocabulary exercises. Choose 5 target words and tell a short story containing them. Your words are unexpected, nervous, explain, solution, relieved. Your story might be, last week, I faced an unexpected problem during an online meeting. My internet stopped working while I was giving an important update, and I became nervous because everyone was waiting. I used my phone to contact a colleague and explain the situation. They continued the presentation while I found a solution. When I finally rejoined the meeting, I felt relieved because the team had managed the problem calmly. The story gives every word a clear role. Do not worry if the story is simple. The purpose is teaching your brain to retrieve words while maintaining connected speech. The 12th method is called one word, 5 directions. Choose one word and use it in 5 different types of sentences. Personal experience, opinion, example, contrast, and future intention. Take the word confidence. Personal experience. My confidence improved after I started recording my voice. Opinion. I believe confidence grows through action rather than waiting. Example. For example, answering one question every day can make speaking feel less frightening. Contrast. I used to avoid mistakes, but now I understand that mistakes can build confidence when I continue. Future intention. I want to develop enough confidence to speak during meetings without over-preparing. This exercise teaches flexible retrieval because the word is no longer connected to only one memorized sentence. The 13th method is speed with simplicity. When you cannot retrieve an advanced word quickly, choose the simpler available word. This is not failure. It is intelligent communication. If purchase does not appear, say buy. If reside does not appear, say live. If assistance does not appear, say help. If numerous does not appear, say many. If commence does not appear, say begin. Your goal in a real conversation is not proving the size of your vocabulary. Your goal is carrying meaning from your mind to another person. The advanced word may appear during review. During conversation, use the language that is ready. The 14th method is called word recovery without panic. When you lose a word, your emotional reaction can make retrieval even harder. You notice the missing word, become embarrassed, imagine the listener judging you, and suddenly other words disappear too. Train a calmer response. Pause briefly. Use a recovery phrase. The exact word is not coming to me, but describe the idea. Continue the message. Suppose you say, the meeting was the exact word is not coming to me, but everyone was disagreeing and the conversation became difficult to control. You may later remember chaotic or tense, but your meaning already survived. Each successful recovery teaches your brain that a missing word is a small problem, not a speaking disaster. The 15th method is listen for reusable language. When listening to English, do not focus only on the general meaning. Notice phrases that speakers use to organize ideas. You may hear, the thing is, what happened was, the reason I say this is. The main difference is looking back. At the end of the day, do not collect every phrase. Choose one or two and create your own examples immediately. What happened was that I misunderstood the instructions. The reason I say this is that I experienced the same problem. Looking back, I should have asked for help earlier. Listening becomes more powerful when it leads directly into production. The 16th method is called personal vocabulary banking. Create a small vocabulary bank based on the situations and ideas you discuss most often. Your bank should not contain random difficult words. It should contain language that helps you express your life. For work, you may need deadline, responsibility, progress, delay, meeting, client, explain, complete, improve, solution. For English learning, fluency, confidence, vocabulary, translate, hesitate, respond, practice, mistake, progress, naturally. For personal growth, discipline, consistency, habit, focus, goal, effort, improvement, challenge, motivation, responsibility. Review your bank through speaking, not only reading. Ask yourself questions that force the vocabulary to appear. What responsibility do I have this week? What is delaying my progress? What habit requires more discipline? When do I hesitate in English? What solution could improve the situation? Your vocabulary bank should grow slowly and remain useful. The 17th method is use the word again soon. A newly learned word disappears quickly when it is used only once. Try to use it several times within the next 24 hours. Suppose you learn hesitate. Say it in a personal sentence. I hesitate when I am afraid of making mistakes. Use it during self-talk. I should not hesitate before sending this message. Use it in a recorded answer. Many learners hesitate because they try to create perfect sentences. Use it in writing. I hesitated at first, but then I decided to speak. Each use tells your brain that the word matters. Words connected to repeated action receive stronger memory pathways than words seen once and abandoned. The 18th method is recall under light pressure. You need to retrieve vocabulary not only while relaxed but also when time is limited. Set a timer for 60 seconds. Choose one topic and speak continuously. Your topic is a difficult decision. Try to use these words: choice, uncertain, advice, consequence, responsible. You might say, last year I had to make a difficult choice about changing my job. I felt uncertain because the new position offered better opportunities, but it also required more responsibility. I asked several people for advice, although I knew the final decision was mine. I considered the possible consequences and eventually accepted the new role. The timer creates light pressure without making the task overwhelming. Start with familiar topics, then gradually use unexpected ones. Pressure training teaches vocabulary to remain available when another person is waiting. The 19th method is review mistakes as missing connections. When you forget a word, do not only write it 5 times. Ask why the word was difficult to retrieve. Did you learn it only through translation? Have you ever spoken it aloud? Do you know which words commonly appear with it? Can you connect it to a personal experience? Can you paraphrase it? Can you use it in different sentence types? Repair the missing connections. Suppose you forgot responsibility. Build a stronger network. Take responsibility, accept responsibility. A major responsibility, be responsible for. It is my responsibility to, then speak. It is my responsibility to manage my own learning. At work, I am responsible for communicating with clients. A good leader accepts responsibility when a mistake happens. The word becomes easier because it now has several paths. The 20th method is to accept that fast retrieval grows gradually. Do not expect every word you learn today to appear naturally tomorrow. Vocabulary moves through stages. First, the word is unfamiliar. Then you recognize it. Then you understand it in context. Then you can use it slowly with preparation. Later, you retrieve it during practice. Finally, it begins appearing automatically in real conversations. Do not become discouraged when a word remains slow for some time. Keep meeting it, retrieving it, speaking it, and connecting it to meaning. Automatic language is the result of repeated successful access. Your daily word retrieval routine can remain simple. Choose 5 useful words or chunks. Create personal sentences with them. Close your notes and retrieve them. Use them in one recorded answer. Paraphrase each one. Review them again the following day. This practice may take only 15 minutes, but it trains the exact process your speaking needs. Before ending this chapter, complete one final challenge. Choose the topic, a challenge I am trying to overcome. Select 5 useful words: challenge, hesitate, confidence, practice, progress. Begin speaking without writing a complete script. One challenge I am trying to overcome is hesitation while speaking English. I often understand the question, but I hesitate because I want every sentence to be correct. This habit affects my confidence and makes my replies slower. To change it, I practice answering simple questions without writing the answers first. I am still making mistakes, but I can see progress because I begin speaking faster than before. Now repeat the answer without looking at the 5 words. Allow the language to change. Do not try to reproduce the exact sentences. Keep the meaning. This is retrieval training. Your brain learns that vocabulary is not something stored only for tests, reading, or silent recognition. It is language you can reach, combine, adapt, and release while a real conversation is happening. The next time a word disappears, do not allow the entire answer to disappear with it. Use a simpler word. Describe the meaning. Give an example. Choose another sentence. Keep speaking. Your English becomes faster when your brain stops believing that every thought depends on one perfect word. The vocabulary is already inside you. Now you must train the road that brings it back. Chapter 5. Keep speaking while your brain prepares the next idea. Many English learners believe that fluent speakers prepare each sentence completely before they say it. They imagine that every word, tense, example, and conclusion is already organized inside the speaker's mind before the voice begins. Because of this belief, learners wait until their own answers feel complete, and when the complete answer does not arrive quickly, they become silent. Real conversation usually works differently. Fluent speakers often begin with only the first clear part of an idea. While they are expressing that part, their brain is already preparing the next one. Their mouth communicates the sentence that is ready, while their mind searches for the reason, example, detail, contrast, or conclusion that should follow. This ability allows speech to continue without requiring the entire answer to exist in advance. You already do this naturally in your first language. Someone asks you an unexpected question, and you begin answering before you know exactly how the response will end. You may start with your opinion, discover a reason while explaining it, remember an example halfway through, change your direction slightly, and finally arrive at a conclusion that was not fully prepared when you began. You trust your first language enough to think while speaking. In English, however, you may not give yourself the same freedom. You try to prepare every sentence before opening your mouth because you are afraid that starting too early will lead to a mistake. The longer you wait, the more pressure grows, and the more difficult it becomes to retrieve even the simple language you already know. The goal of this chapter is to train a new speaking process. Say the part that is ready, use it to create time, and allow the next thought to develop while your voice remains active. This is not careless speaking. It is controlled continuation. You are not speaking without thinking. You are learning to divide thinking and speaking into smaller, overlapping movements. Imagine someone asks you, "What has helped you improve your English?" You may have several possible answers. Listening has helped you. Speaking aloud has helped you. Learning phrases has helped you. You may also want to discuss confidence, routine, vocabulary, mistakes, and practice partners. If you try to organize all of these ideas before beginning, your mind may become overloaded. Instead, begin with one clear sentence. One thing that has helped me is practicing English aloud every day. While you say that sentence, your brain can prepare the reason. The reason is that silent study improves understanding. But speaking aloud trains me to retrieve the language more quickly. While you explain the reason, an example may appear. For example, I sometimes choose one simple question and answer it for 2 minutes without writing anything first. While you give the example, your brain may recognize the result. Because of this practice, my replies are gradually becoming faster and more natural. The complete answer grew while you were already communicating. Your first sentence created enough time for the second. The second created enough direction for the third. The third created the result. This is how a real-time answer develops. The first skill you need is called the moving thought method. The moving thought method means that you do not hold an idea inside your mind until it becomes perfect. You release the clearest part, then continue developing the meaning one step at a time. A thought should move through 4 simple stages. First, state what you believe or experienced. Next, explain why it matters. Then make it clearer with a detail or example. Finally, describe the result, lesson, or conclusion. Suppose someone asks, "Do you think people should read every day?" Begin with the statement, "Yes, I think daily reading can be extremely valuable." Now explain why. It gives people regular contact with new ideas, vocabulary, and ways of thinking. Now give an example. For example, even reading for 15 minutes before sleeping can expose someone to useful language and help them develop a calmer evening routine. Now conclude. So I do not think people need to finish a complete book every week. The important thing is creating a consistent reading habit. At the beginning, you may only have known that you supported daily reading. The deeper answer appeared after your voice began moving. You need to trust this process. The second skill is called using a bridge before the next idea is complete. A bridge is a short phrase that shows the direction of your next thought and gives your brain a little more time to prepare it. Useful bridges include: one reason for this is, what I mean is, a good example is, another important point is, at the same time. However, there is another side. Because of this. What I learned from this is, the main point is, these phrases are powerful because they perform two jobs at once. They guide the listener, and they guide your own thinking. When you say, one reason for this is, your brain immediately begins searching for a cause. When you say, a good example is, your mind begins searching for a specific situation. When you say, however, your brain prepares an opposite or different perspective. When you say, because of this, your mind searches for a consequence. The bridge gives your next thought a clear job. Imagine that you are speaking about online learning. Online learning has made education more accessible. You need another sentence, but the next idea is not fully ready. Use a bridge. One reason for this is. Now your brain knows what to find. One reason for this is that people can study without living close to a school or training center. Continue. A good example is someone who works during the day but takes an online course in the evening. Now add contrast. However, online learning also requires discipline because nobody is physically present to make the learner continue. Then conclude. For this reason, online education can be powerful, but only when flexibility is supported by a clear routine. The bridges prevented silence because each one gave your mind a new direction. Do not memorize 50 bridges. Choose a small group that feels comfortable and use them repeatedly. A few phrases that appear automatically are more useful than many advanced connectors you cannot retrieve during conversation. The third skill is called preparing only one sentence ahead. Some learners attempt to prepare 3 or 4 sentences ahead while speaking. They become so focused on future sentences that they stop listening to their own words, lose track of grammar, or forget the main question. You do not need to prepare the entire answer ahead. Try to prepare only the next direction. While speaking your current sentence, ask one small question. What reason can I add? What example can I give? What happened next? How did I feel? What is another side? What did I learn? Suppose you are telling someone about a difficult day at work. Yesterday was more stressful than usual because 2 important tasks arrived at the same time. While saying that sentence, prepare only the next question. What made the tasks difficult? Both tasks had close deadlines, and I did not have all the information I needed. Now prepare the next question. What did you do? I contacted the people involved, explained the situation, and asked which task needed immediate attention. Now prepare the result. Once the priority became clear, I could organize the work and finish the most urgent part before the end of the day. Now prepare the lesson. The experience reminded me that asking for clarification can save more time than silently trying to solve everything alone. You did not need to prepare the conclusion while saying the first sentence. Each step created the next one. This keeps your mental load small. The fourth skill is keeping your language simpler than your idea. Your idea may be deep, emotional, or complex. That does not mean your first sentence must use advanced grammar or difficult vocabulary. When learners try to make the language as complex as the thought, their reply becomes delayed. The idea grows, the sentence becomes heavier, and the speaker begins translating. Use simple language to carry complex meaning. Suppose you want to express this idea. People often avoid opportunities because they are afraid that mistakes will expose their weaknesses. You do not need to create one complicated sentence. You can say, many people avoid opportunities because they are afraid of making mistakes. Then continue. They believe one mistake will make others think they are not capable. Then add your deeper point. However, avoiding the opportunity often causes more damage than making the mistake. Then give the lesson. Growth usually begins when a person accepts that discomfort is part of learning. The thinking is meaningful, but the sentences remain manageable. Simple English gives your brain more space to prepare what comes next. The fifth skill is called the half-sentence rescue. Sometimes you begin a sentence and realize that you do not know how to finish it. Perhaps the grammar became too difficult, the word disappeared, or your idea changed. Do not panic. Do not remain trapped inside the unfinished sentence. Use a rescue phrase and begin again with a simpler structure. For example, one of the most significant consequences of social media is that it has caused people to become increasingly, the word disappears. You can recover. What I mean is that social media has changed the way people compare their lives. Now continue. People often compare an ordinary day with the most attractive moments from someone else's life, and this can create unnecessary dissatisfaction. The unfinished sentence did not destroy the answer because you released yourself from it. Useful rescue phrases include, let me say that more simply. What I mean is, in other words, the main idea is, let me explain that another way. Practice these phrases until they become automatic. They give you permission to change the sentence without treating the change as failure. Your listener usually cares more about understanding your meaning than hearing the original structure you planned. The sixth skill is using explanation to replace missing vocabulary. Your brain may be preparing the next idea correctly, but one word refuses to appear. If you stop and search for that word too long, the entire answer may lose its energy. Do not allow one word to control the conversation. Describe it. Suppose you want to say overwhelmed, but the word disappears. Say, I felt as though I had too many things to manage at the same time. Suppose you forget flexible. Say, the schedule can change according to the person's needs. Suppose you forget unreliable. Say, you cannot always depend on it. Suppose you forget procrastination. Say, it is the habit of delaying something even when you know it needs to be done. Speaking around a missing word keeps your voice moving and gives your brain a chance to recover naturally. Sometimes the exact word will return while you are explaining it. Sometimes the listener will provide it. Sometimes you will complete the conversation without needing it. All three outcomes are successful. The seventh skill is called use the current sentence as preparation time. A sentence is not only a message, it is also time. While you are saying one familiar sentence, your brain receives several seconds to prepare the next thought. This is why useful speaking patterns can improve speed. Take the phrase, the main reason I feel this way is, you already know the beginning, so your brain can use the time to choose the actual reason. Someone asks, why do you prefer studying in the morning? You begin, the main reason I feel this way is that, while saying the familiar opening, your brain retrieves the idea, my mind is clearer before other responsibilities begin. Continue with another familiar bridge. A good example is, your brain prepares the example. A good example is that I can concentrate on difficult speaking practice in the morning, but in the evening, I usually feel too tired. Then conclude. For this reason, I try to complete the most mentally demanding work early in the day. The patterns are not robotic when they carry real personal meaning. They become robotic only when they are repeated without purpose or connection. Use patterns as tools, not decorations. The eighth skill is releasing the first acceptable answer. Many learners do not have a vocabulary problem. They have a selection problem. Several possible answers appear, and they spend too much time deciding which one is best. Someone asks, what is the most important quality in a leader? You may think of honesty, confidence, communication, responsibility, courage, fairness, or patience. You begin comparing all of them, searching for the perfect answer. Real conversation does not require the only correct answer. Choose one acceptable direction. I think responsibility is one of the most important qualities in a leader. Now explain. A leader must accept the result of their decisions instead of blaming other people whenever something goes wrong. Give an example. For example, if a team misses a deadline, a responsible leader tries to understand the cause and improve the process rather than only criticizing the team. Finish. This creates trust because people feel that the leader is working with them instead of standing above them. The answer became strong because you chose one useful idea and developed it. Fast replying often depends on making a decision before every possible answer has been examined. Your answer can be reasonable without being perfect. The ninth skill is called the two-lane speaking method. Imagine that your mind has two lanes. In the first lane, your voice is communicating the sentence that is currently ready. In the second lane, your brain is quietly preparing the direction of the next sentence. The two lanes must work together, but the second lane should not become overloaded. Suppose you say, I started exercising regularly a few months ago. Your voice is using the first lane. In the second lane, your brain asks, Why did I start? You continue. I began because I often felt tired and wanted to improve my energy. Now the second lane asks, what did I do? I started with short walks because a difficult routine would have been hard to maintain. Now it asks, what changed? After several weeks, I noticed that I could concentrate better and felt less stressed. Now it asks, what did I learn? The experience taught me that simple habits become powerful when they are repeated consistently. One lane spoke, the other prepared. If the preparation lane tries to plan everything, both lanes become blocked. Keep the future tasks small. Prepare only the next direction. The 10th skill is using controlled repetition to create time. Repetition is not always weak. Repeating an idea with clearer wording can help the listener and give your mind time to develop the next point. For example, confidence is not something you receive before taking action. What I mean is that confidence usually grows after you repeat the difficult action several times. The second sentence expresses the same central idea, but it also clarifies it. Then you can continue. For example, a learner may feel nervous during the first few conversations, but each successful attempt teaches the brain that speaking is manageable. Controlled repetition has a purpose. It clarifies, emphasizes, or transitions. Empty repetition says, confidence is important. Confidence is very useful. Confidence is really important for everyone. The meaning does not grow. Purposeful repetition says, confidence matters, but it is often misunderstood. It does not mean feeling completely fearless, it means acting even when some fear is still present. The second sentence deepens the idea. When you need time, repeat the main idea differently rather than repeating the same words. The 11th skill is called telling the listener where you are going. Sometimes your brain slows down because an answer contains several parts and you do not know which one to express first. Give the answer a simple structure aloud. You can say, I see two main reasons for this. Now you only need to find the first reason. The first reason is that daily practice improves retrieval. Then the second. The second reason is that regular repetition reduces fear. Then conclude. Together, these changes make real conversations feel more manageable. The structure organizes both your answer and your thinking. Other useful structures include, there are two sides to this. I would divide the problem into 3 parts. The first thing to understand is, one advantage is, but one disadvantage is. My answer has changed over time. Suppose someone asks, is working from home better than working in an office? You can begin. I think there are 2 sides to this. Now your brain has a map. Working from home saves time and gives people more flexibility. On the other hand, an office can provide better communication and reduce isolation. For me, the strongest option would be a combination of both. You did not need to prepare every sentence. The announced structure guided the answer. The 12th skill is using personal experience as a safe road. When an abstract explanation becomes difficult, move towards something you have lived through. Someone asks, how can people develop discipline? You begin. I think discipline grows when your next idea becomes unclear. Move into personal experience. In my own experience, discipline became easier when I stopped creating routines that were too ambitious. Now the story gives you material. I used to plan long study sessions, but I often delayed them because they felt difficult to begin. Later, I reduced the session to 20 minutes and focused on repeating it every day. As a result, the habit became more stable. Then return to the general lesson. So I believe discipline often grows from making the action easier to repeat, not from depending on strong motivation. Personal experience contains actions, problems, feelings, changes, and lessons. It gives your brain many possible next sentences. When you become stuck, ask yourself, when did this happen to me? What did I notice? What changed afterward? What did the experience teach me? Your own life can rescue the answer. The 13th skill is using examples before explanations become too abstract. Abstract language often creates slow speech because the idea is large and difficult to organize. A specific example makes the idea visible. Suppose you are discussing why fear affects English speaking. Fear causes learners to focus too much on themselves. This idea may be difficult to explain. Give an example. For example, during a conversation, the learner may stop listening to the other person because they are thinking, is my grammar correct? Does my accent sound strange? What if I forget a word? Now explain the result. Because their attention is divided, it becomes harder to understand the question and retrieve the answer. Then give the solution. The learner must return their attention to the message instead of monitoring every small detail of their performance. The example helped your brain discover the explanation. When the idea feels too broad, ask, What would this look like in a real situation? The 14th skill is called answering in layers. A real-time answer can grow in layers instead of appearing as one complete block. The first layer is the short answer. The second layer gives a reason. The third layer adds a specific example. The fourth layer shows another side. The fifth layer gives a conclusion. Take the question: is failure necessary for success? First layer: I think failure is often an important part of success. Second layer: it shows people which part of their approach is not working. Third layer: for example, someone may start a business with a strong idea but poor planning, and the first failure may reveal what needs to change. Fourth layer: however, failure is only useful when the person reflects and improves. Repeating the same mistake without learning does not create progress. Fifth layer: so failure itself is not the teacher. Honest reflection is what turns failure into growth. You did not need to prepare all 5 layers before beginning. Build one layer, then add another. The 15th skill is knowing when to pause and when to continue. A short pause is not failure. If the question is thoughtful, you may need a moment to choose your main direction. The problem begins when you interpret that pause as evidence that your English has collapsed. Use the pause calmly. You may say, "That is an interesting question." Pause briefly, then continue. "I think the main issue is..." The thinking phrase shows the listener that you are organizing your answer. Do not fill every second with you know, and repeated words. A quiet 2-second pause can sound more controlled than several seconds of nervous filler. However, do not use thinking time to prepare the entire answer. Use it only to choose the first clear idea. Then begin. The 16th skill is called the running start drill. This exercise trains your brain to prepare the next sentence while you are already speaking. Choose a simple question. What is one habit that improved your life? Begin with a familiar sentence. One habit that has improved my life is planning my day in advance. While speaking, prepare the reason. It helps me understand which task deserves my attention first. While saying the reason, prepare an example. For example, I write down 3 priorities before I begin work. While giving the example, prepare the result. Because of this, I spend less time deciding what to do and feel less stressed during the day. Repeat the answer 3 times. During the first attempt, speak slowly. During the second attempt, reduce the planning time. During the third attempt, begin within 3 seconds and allow the answer to flow. Do not memorize the exact wording. Let the sentences change slightly each time. The goal is training the movement between ideas. The 17th skill is replying with what you know while admitting what you do not know. Some questions make learners silent because they feel they need expert knowledge. You can contribute honestly without pretending to know everything. Suppose someone asks, "Do you think artificial intelligence will replace many jobs?" You may not know enough to give a technical answer. Begin honestly. "I do not know enough to predict exactly what will happen, but I think some types of work will definitely change." Now explain your reasoning. Tasks that are repetitive may become more automated, while jobs requiring human judgment, trust, or creativity may change more slowly. At a balanced point. At the same time, new tools may create jobs that do not exist today. Conclude. So I believe the strongest response is learning how to work with new technology instead of assuming that every job will simply disappear. You did not need perfect knowledge, you needed a clear, honest position. Useful phrases include, "I do not know enough to give a complete answer, but from what I understand, I have not experienced this personally, although my first reaction is, there may be several factors, but..." These openings allow you to participate without inventing facts. The 18th skill is called continuing after the sentence changes direction. Sometimes you begin with one idea and discover a better idea while speaking. You do not need to hide the change. You can say, "At first I was going to say that talent is the most important factor, but after thinking about it, I believe consistency matters more." Now explain the change. Talent may give someone a strong beginning, but consistency determines whether they continue improving over time. This sounds natural because human thinking develops. You are allowed to revise your opinion. You are allowed to say, "Actually, let me change that slightly." A better way to express it is, "After thinking about it." The deeper issue may be, real-time speaking is not a performance of a finished script. It is live communication. The 19th skill is keeping the listener involved. You do not have to carry the entire conversation alone. The listener can become part of the sentence chain. After explaining your point, ask a related question. "That method has helped me become more consistent. Have you tried anything similar?" Or, "I prefer working early because my mind feels clearer. What time of day works best for you?" Or, "I think technology can be helpful when it is used carefully. How has it changed the way you work? A connected question keeps the topic alive and gives you time to listen, understand, and prepare your next contribution. Fluency includes knowing when to speak and when to invite another person into the conversation. The 20th skill is using the listener's answer as your next starting point. Listen for a useful word or idea in the other person's response. They say, "I prefer studying at night because everything is quieter." You can respond, "The quiet environment is a major advantage. I also find it easier to concentrate when there are fewer interruptions, although I usually become tired if I study too late." Their word quieter gave you the next direction. They say, "I changed my job because I wanted more growth." You can respond, "Professional growth is an important reason to make a change. Was the decision difficult, or did you already know what kind of opportunity you wanted?" Their answer supplies vocabulary and meaning. You are not creating every link alone. The conversation itself helps generate the next one. The 21st skill is staying connected to the main question. When your mind produces several ideas, you may move too far from the original topic. If you notice this, return naturally. Use phrases such as, "Returning to the main question. The reason this connects to your question is coming back to the original point. The main thing I want to say is, suppose someone asks, 'Why are you learning English?' and you begin describing your work for too long. Recover. Coming back to the main question, I am learning English because my work increasingly requires communication with international clients." This shows control. You do not need to restart the answer. You only need to bring the chain back to its central thread. The 22nd skill is called the 1-minute expansion drill. Choose one short statement and continue for 1 minute. Your statement is, "Learning English has changed my confidence." Add a reason. "It has given me more ways to express my thoughts." Add an example. For example, "I can now participate in conversations that I previously avoided." Add contrast. "In the past, I often remained silent even when I understood the topic." Add result. "Now I am more willing to speak because I know that small mistakes do not destroy communication." Add a lesson. "I have learned that confidence grows from using the language, not only from studying it." Repeat this exercise with statements such as, "Technology has changed my daily routine." "One habit is reducing my stress." "My biggest challenge is consistency." "A mistake taught me something valuable." "I want to make an important change." The goal is teaching your brain that every statement can open several useful directions. The 23rd skill is speaking through imperfect grammar. If you wait until every grammatical choice is certain, your next sentence will often arrive too late. Use the strongest grammar you currently control, but keep the idea moving. Suppose you say, "I have started this habit 2 months ago." You notice the problem. Correct it naturally. "I started this habit 2 months ago, and it has already helped me become more organized." Do not apologize repeatedly. Do not return to the beginning. The communication continues. If a small mistake does not change the meaning, you can review it later. Speaking practice and grammar review should support each other, but they should not compete for complete control at the same moment. During speaking, ask, "Is my meaning clear?" After speaking, ask, "How can I express it more accurately next time?" This separation reduces pressure and protects progress. The 24th skill is building automatic transition habits. Choose 5 transitions for 1 week. One reason is, for example, however, because of this. The main lesson is, use them across many topics. On Monday, speak about learning English. On Tuesday, speak about work. On Wednesday, speak about health. On Thursday, tell a personal story. On Friday, discuss technology. The phrases will gradually become available without translation. Once these transitions are automatic, replace 1 or 2 with new ones. Another point is, in my experience, at the same time. As a result, overall, do not replace everything at once. Build a small, reliable system. The 25th skill is turning silence into a direction choice. The moment your brain becomes quiet, do not tell yourself, "I have nothing to say." Choose one direction. Reason. Example. Detail. Contrast. Experience. Result. Lesson. Future plan. If you have just said, "I want to improve my English," choose reason, because I want to communicate more confidently. Choose example. For example, I want to answer unexpected questions during meetings. Choose contrast. I speak more comfortably alone, but around other people I become slower. Choose result. Because of this, I am practicing short, spontaneous answers every day. The silence was not empty. It needed direction. The 26th skill is called the Live Thought Challenge. Choose one question you have never prepared. Give yourself 3 seconds to begin. Speak for 3 minutes. You are not allowed to restart. During the first minute, state and explain your main idea. During the second minute, add an example, personal experience, or contrast. During the third minute, describe the lesson, result, or future action. Possible questions include: what makes someone mentally strong? Should people always follow their passion? What is one problem technology cannot solve? What makes communication difficult? How should people respond to failure? What is one lesson society should teach children? When you become stuck, use a bridge. When a word disappears, paraphrase. When your grammar becomes complicated, simplify. When you move away from the question, return to the main point. When the answer is complete, conclude clearly. This challenge brings all the skills together. The 27th skill is reviewing the chain instead of attacking your accent. After recording yourself, many learners focus immediately on how their voice sounds. They criticize their accent, pronunciation, or tone, and miss the deeper speaking process. First, review the movement of ideas. Did your first sentence appear quickly? Did each sentence connect logically? Did you explain the main reason? Did you give a specific example? Did you recover after a blank moment? Did you finish clearly? Then choose one language problem to improve. Perhaps your vocabulary was repetitive. Perhaps the example was unclear. Perhaps one transition appeared too often. Perhaps a grammar mistake repeated several times. Repair one issue during the next recording. Focused review produces improvement. General self-criticism produces fear. The 28th skill is called protecting your mental energy. A conversation requires attention. You must listen, understand, retrieve vocabulary, organize ideas, pronounce words, watch the listener, and manage your emotions. You cannot give maximum attention to every task at once. Reduce the load. Use familiar structures. Choose simple vocabulary. Develop one central idea. Accept minor mistakes. Listen for the listener's keywords. Prepare only one sentence ahead. These choices save mental energy for the part that matters most, meaning. Fluency becomes faster when your brain stops wasting energy on unnecessary perfection. The 29th skill is trusting that the next idea can arrive late. Sometimes the best example or strongest word appears after you have already moved forward. That is acceptable. You can add it naturally. Something else just came to mind. A better example would be, I should also mention, another point I almost forgot is, suppose you are discussing why routines matter. Routines reduce the number of decisions people need to make every day. Something else just came to mind. They can also protect useful habits when motivation becomes low. The later idea still has value. Your answer does not need to follow the exact order in which your mind first imagined it. The final skill in this chapter is becoming comfortable with unfinished preparation. This may be the deepest lesson. You will rarely feel completely ready for every real conversation. The question may be unexpected. The topic may be unfamiliar. The listener may respond differently than you imagined. A word may disappear. Your opinion may change while you explain it. If your speaking depends on complete preparation, real conversation will always feel dangerous. You need to become comfortable beginning with partial clarity. You know the main idea. That is enough to start. You know one reason. That is enough to continue. You remember one example. That is enough to deepen the answer. You see another side. That is enough to create balance. You understand the lesson. That is enough to finish. The complete answer can grow through these small discoveries. Before finishing this chapter, complete one final practice. Answer the question, what is one change that would improve your life? Begin within 3 seconds. Say only the first clear idea. One change that would improve my life is becoming more consistent with my routine. Now let the next sentence develop while you speak. The main reason is that I often begin useful habits but stop when my schedule becomes busy. Now give an example. For example, I may practice English every day for 1 week and then miss several days because I planned sessions that were too long. Now describe the change. I want to create a shorter routine that I can complete even when I have limited time. Now explain the result. If I repeat this consistently, I believe my progress will become more stable and less dependent on motivation. You did not need the whole answer before beginning. You needed one clear entrance. That is the habit you are building. Your brain can speak and prepare at the same time. Your current sentence can create space for the next one. A familiar bridge can guide your thinking. A simple explanation can replace a missing word. A personal example can rescue an abstract idea. A clear structure can organize an unexpected answer. You do not have to carry the whole conversation before taking the first step. Begin with what is ready. Trust the next small thought. Let your voice remain active while your brain continues working, because real-time English is not the ability to prepare every sentence instantly. It is the ability to keep communicating while the answer is still becoming clear. Chapter 6, The Real-Time Conversation Workout. You can understand every method in this audiobook, memorize useful sentence openings, learn hundreds of vocabulary chunks, and still respond too slowly if your brain never practices English under the conditions of a real conversation. Knowledge becomes speed only when it is repeatedly retrieved, organized, and spoken before you have unlimited time to prepare. This is why passive learning can create a strange gap. You may spend hours listening to English, understand nearly everything, and feel confident while studying alone. Yet the moment another person asks an unexpected question, your mind suddenly becomes slower. The question is clear, but your answer is not ready. You begin translating, checking grammar, searching for vocabulary, and worrying about the listener's reaction. By the time your sentence arrives, the natural moment has already passed. The problem is not that your learning was useless. Listening and reading gave your brain valuable English. The problem is that most of your practice trained you to receive language, while real conversation requires you to produce it under time pressure. The purpose of this chapter is to turn your English knowledge into real-time speaking ability through a practical workout. You will learn how to begin quickly, develop answers without scripts, handle unexpected follow-up questions, recover from blank moments, and gradually increase speaking pressure without destroying your confidence. Your brain does not become faster because you tell it to hurry. It becomes faster because you repeat a clear process until that process requires less mental effort. The first exercise is called the 3-second question drill. Choose 5 simple questions. Read or hear one question. Give yourself no more than 3 seconds to choose a direction, and begin speaking. You do not need to create the complete answer within 3 seconds. Your only responsibility is starting with one clear sentence. The questions might be: what is one habit you want to improve? What do you enjoy doing after work? Why are you learning English? Would you rather live in a large city or a quiet place? What is something useful you learned recently? Suppose the question is, what is one habit you want to improve? Begin. One habit I want to improve is the way I use my phone at night. Now develop the answer. I often plan to check it for only a few minutes, but I continue much longer than expected. Because of this, I sleep later and wake up with less energy. I am trying to leave my phone away from my bed and read something instead. Your first sentence opened the answer. The reason, example, result, and solution appeared after your voice was already moving. Complete all 5 questions without restarting. If your first sentence is imperfect, correct it briefly or continue. This exercise is not testing whether you can produce perfect English. It is teaching your brain that hearing a question should lead to an immediate direction instead of a long period of silent overthinking. At first, 3 seconds may feel uncomfortable. You may need 5 or 6 seconds. That is acceptable. The goal is gradually reducing unnecessary delay, not punishing yourself for thinking. The second exercise is called 1 question, 3 attempts. Choose one question and answer it 3 times. Each attempt has a different purpose. During the first attempt, speak slowly and discover your ideas. Do not worry about pauses. Let your brain understand what you want to say. During the second attempt, organize the answer more clearly. Begin with the main point. Explain the reason, give an example, and describe the result. During the third attempt, begin within 3 seconds and speak naturally without trying to reproduce every sentence from the earlier attempts. Suppose the question is, what has helped you improve your English? Your first attempt may sound like this: listening helps me, and I also practice speaking sometimes. I think recording is useful because I can hear mistakes. This answer may be incomplete, but it reveals your main ideas. Your second attempt may become: one method that has helped me is recording short spoken answers. It allows me to hear where my sentences become slow or unclear. For example, I noticed that I often repeated the same vocabulary because I was afraid of trying different expressions. After recognizing this, I began practicing useful phrases before recording again. During the third attempt, you begin naturally. Recording my voice has probably helped me more than any other method because it shows me what happens when I speak without preparation. I can hear where I hesitate, repeat myself, or lose the main idea. Then I practice that weak area and answer the same question again. You did not memorize the second answer. Repetition simply made the ideas easier to access. Many learners avoid repeating topics because they believe every practice session must contain something new. But speaking the same answer several times is one of the fastest ways to improve retrieval. The first attempt discovers the language. The second organizes it. The third begins building automaticity. The third exercise is called Listen, Pause, and Reply. Choose a short English interview, podcast, dialogue, or lesson containing questions. When one speaker asks a question, pause the audio before the other person responds. give your own answer aloud. Your answer does not need to match the original speaker's answer. The purpose is training your brain to receive a natural question and produce an immediate response. Imagine the interviewer asks, "What is one mistake that changed the way you think?" Pause. Begin. One mistake that changed me was waiting too long before taking an important opportunity. I believed I needed more preparation, but later I realized that preparation can become an excuse when fear is controlling the decision. Since then, I have tried to begin with the skills I have and improve through action. Then play the original response. Notice how the speaker begins. Do they state an opinion, tell a story, give a reason, or use a thinking phrase? Pay attention to how they connect the second sentence to the first. This turns listening into active speaking training. You are no longer only receiving finished language. You are learning to create your own reply before hearing someone else's. The fourth exercise is called the Voice Message Challenge. Voice messages are powerful because they create more realism than private self-talk, but less pressure than a live conversation. You know another person may listen, so your attention becomes sharper, yet you still have enough space to practice calmly. Choose one topic and record a 60-second message as though you were sending it to a friend. You might explain something interesting that happened today, a decision you are considering, a habit you are trying to build, a problem you recently solved, an opinion about a common topic. Do not write the message first. You may choose 3 keywords, but the sentences must be created while speaking. Suppose your keywords are meeting, nervous, successful. You might say, "I had an important meeting today, and before it began, I felt more nervous than I expected. I had prepared my main points, but I was worried that someone would ask an unexpected question. Fortunately, once I started speaking, the conversation became easier. I did not answer everything perfectly, but I explained my ideas clearly enough, and the meeting was successful." Do not restart because one sentence sounds weak. A real voice message should feel human. Small pauses and corrections are normal. After recording, listen once. Identify only one improvement. Perhaps the beginning was too slow, the story lacked a conclusion, or you repeated one word too often. Record the message again, but do not attempt to copy the exact wording. Improve the weak area while keeping the response spontaneous. The fifth exercise is called unexpected follow-up training. Many learners prepare a strong first answer but become silent when the other person asks a follow-up question. The initial question was familiar, but the next one changes the direction and removes the protection of the prepared response. Real-time fluency requires flexibility after the first answer. Begin with one question. What kind of work do you enjoy? Answer: I enjoy work that allows me to solve problems and create something useful. Now ask yourself an unexpected follow-up. Can you give a specific example? Continue. For example, I enjoy situations where a project is unclear at the beginning and I need to organize the information, identify the main problem, and build a practical solution. Ask another. Do you prefer working alone or with a team? Continue. I prefer working alone during tasks that require deep concentration, but I enjoy teamwork when different opinions can improve the final result. Ask another. What is the most difficult part of teamwork? Continue. The most difficult part is usually communication because people may have different expectations without realizing it. Each question changes the direction slightly, forcing your brain to listen, choose a new angle, and connect it to the existing conversation. You can practice follow-up questions such as, why do you feel that way? Can you give an example? Has your opinion always been the same? What is the biggest difficulty? What would you do differently? What happened next? How did that experience change you? What is your next step? Do not prepare every answer. Let each question arrive after the previous response. This teaches your brain to stay present instead of repeating a memorized speech. The sixth exercise is called the missing word drill. During real conversations, one missing word can cause panic. You know the meaning, but the vocabulary refuses to appear. Instead of continuing, you stop the entire sentence and begin searching. This drill teaches you to speak around the missing word. Choose 10 common words and explain each one without saying the word itself. For appointment, say, it is a meeting arranged for a particular time. For umbrella, say, it is something people carry to protect themselves from rain. For deadline, say, it is the final time by which a task must be completed. For generous, say, it describes someone who is willing to give help, time, or money. For disappointed, say, it is the feeling you have when something is not as good as you expected. Then practice inside a sentence. I had a meeting arranged for a specific time. The word is not coming to me, but it was with my manager at 3 o'clock. You may suddenly remember appointment. but the sentence has already survived. The purpose is teaching your mind that communication does not depend on one perfect word. Every idea has several possible paths. When a word disappears during a conversation, say, "The exact word is not coming to me, but it is something that," it describes a person who, "What I mean is, it is similar to," then continue. Every successful paraphrase weakens your fear of forgetting vocabulary. The seventh exercise is called the no restart rule. Many learners practice in a way that looks perfect but creates fragile speaking. They begin recording, make one mistake, stop, delete the attempt, and start again. Eventually, they produce a clean answer, but their brain never learns how to continue through imperfection. Real conversations do not have a restart button. Choose one question and speak for 2 minutes. You may pause, correct yourself, simplify your idea, or change direction, but you are not allowed to begin again from the first sentence. Suppose you say, "Last year I visited a city I had never seen before." You corrected the tense and continued. Later, you forget a word. "The streets were there were so many people that walking became difficult." You paraphrased and continued. Then your story loses direction. "The main reason I remember the trip is not the crowded streets. It is the conversation I had with a local shopkeeper." You return to the central point. These repairs are not signs that the exercise failed. They are the main purpose of the exercise. The goal is proving that imperfect English can remain alive. The eighth exercise is the 1-minute idea expansion. Start with one short sentence and continue developing it for 1 minute. Your sentence might be, "Learning English has changed my confidence." Now add a reason. "It has given me more ways to communicate with people." Add a contrast. "In the past, I often remained silent even when I understood the topic." Add an example. For example, "I once avoided speaking during an online meeting because I was afraid of making a grammar mistake." Add a change. "Now I try to share at least one idea, even when my sentence is not perfect." Add a result. Because of this, speaking feels less frightening than it did before. The exercise teaches your brain to see one statement as an opening rather than a finished answer. Try other starting sentences. "One habit has improved my life." "Technology has changed the way I learn." "I made a mistake that taught me something." "My biggest challenge is consistency." "I want to become more confident." When your mind slows down, choose a direction: reason, detail, example, contrast, result, lesson, or future plan. Do not change the topic randomly. Stay with the central meaning and explore it. The ninth exercise is called the situation simulation. Private speaking is valuable, but it does not always prepare you for the language required in specific real-life situations. You should rehearse the situations in which you actually need English. Imagine a job interview. The interviewer asks, "Tell me about a challenge you faced." You respond, "One challenge I faced was completing an important project with limited time. At first, the team did not have clear priorities, so I organized the work into smaller tasks and asked everyone to confirm their responsibilities. As a result, we completed the most important part before the deadline. The experience taught me that clear communication can prevent unnecessary delays." Now imagine a meeting. Someone asks, "Why has the project been delayed?" You respond, "The main delay happened because we were waiting for information from another department. We have now received most of what we need, and I believe the remaining work can be completed by Friday. To avoid another delay, I suggest checking progress again tomorrow." Now imagine traveling. A hotel employee says they cannot find your reservation. You respond, "I booked the room online 3 days ago, and I received a confirmation email. Let me show you the message. The reservation should be under my name, and the booking number is written here." Now imagine a social conversation. Someone asks, "What do you enjoy doing on weekends?" You respond, "I usually spend part of the weekend with my family, and I also try to make time for reading or walking. During the week, my schedule feels busy, so the weekend helps me slow down and prepare for the following week." Practice situations that matter to your life. Realistic preparation helps vocabulary and sentence patterns become available when the actual moment arrives. The 10th exercise is called the pressure ladder. You should not practice only in complete comfort, but you should also avoid placing yourself under so much pressure that your mind completely shuts down. Build pressure gradually. The first level is private self-talk. You speak alone about a familiar topic. The second level is recording. You know the answer will be heard, even if only by you. The third level is sending a voice message to someone you trust. The fourth level is having a short live conversation with one supportive person. The fifth level is answering unexpected questions. The sixth level is speaking in a small group. The seventh level is contributing during a meeting, class, interview, or public discussion. Do not jump directly from the first level to the seventh and then decide you are not capable because anxiety appears. Your brain needs gradual evidence that English remains available while the pressure increases. At each level, remain until the situation becomes more manageable. Then move one step higher. Your goal is not removing all nervousness. Your goal is learning that nervousness can exist without controlling your voice. The 11th exercise is called the 30-second recovery challenge. Begin answering a question. After 20 seconds, deliberately stop and pretend the next thought has disappeared. You must recover within a few seconds using one of the methods you have learned. Question: what is one useful habit everyone should develop? Begin. I think everyone should develop the habit of planning their most important tasks because stop. Recover through clarification. What I mean is that people often begin the day without deciding what deserves their attention. Continue. As a result, they spend time reacting to small tasks while important work remains unfinished. Try again and recover through an example. For example, someone may spend the entire morning answering messages and then discover they have no time for their main responsibility. Try again and recover through personal experience. In my own experience, planning 3 priorities helps me begin the day with more direction. This exercise prepares you for the moment when your chain breaks unexpectedly. Instead of fearing the blank moment, you practice choosing a recovery path. The 12th exercise is the conversation bridge drill. Choose 5 bridges. One reason is, for example, however, because of this. The main lesson is, now answer one question while using all 5. Question: why do many people struggle to build good habits? Answer: one reason is that they create routines that are too difficult to maintain. For example, someone who has never exercised may decide to train for 2 hours every day. However, when the routine becomes exhausting, motivation quickly disappears. Because of this, the person may stop completely instead of reducing the difficulty. The main lesson is that a simple routine repeated consistently is usually stronger than an extreme routine followed for only a few days. The bridges give the answer direction and give your brain time. Repeat the drill with different topics until the phrases begin appearing naturally. Then replace 1 or 2 bridges with new ones. Do not use connectors only to sound advanced. Every bridge must perform a real job. The 13th exercise is called the listener's keyword method. During a real conversation, the other person's words can help you create your response. Instead of preparing everything alone, listen for one important keyword and build from it. The other person says, "I changed my job because I wanted more freedom." You can respond, "Freedom is an important reason to make a career change. Did the new job give you more control over your time?" They say, "I feel nervous because I have an interview tomorrow." You respond. Interviews can create a lot of pressure, especially when the opportunity matters. Have you already prepared examples of your experience? They say, "I learn English by watching films." You respond, "Films are useful because they show how English sounds in real situations." Do you also repeat any expressions after hearing them? Their language gives you both a topic and useful vocabulary. Fluency is not always creating original sentences from nothing. It is also connecting intelligently to what another person has already said. The 14th exercise is called the clarification practice. Real-time speaking includes moments when you do not understand the question. Pretending to understand creates more pressure and often leads to an unrelated answer. Practice asking for clarification naturally. Could you repeat the last part? Could you say that a little more slowly? What do you mean by? Do you mean that? I understood the first point, but could you explain the second one? Suppose someone asks a long question and you understand only the general topic. You can say, "I understand that you are asking about my experience, but could you repeat the final part of the question?" This keeps the conversation alive and gives you the information you need. You should also practice clarifying your own message when the listener looks confused. Let me explain that more simply. What I mean is, to give you an example, by that I mean, communication is a shared process. Strong speakers do not pretend that every message was immediately perfect. They repair understanding when necessary. The 15th exercise is called the 2-minute opinion builder. Choose one opinion question and follow 5 stages. State your view. Give the main reason. Add an example. Acknowledge another side. Finish with a conclusion. Question: is social media helpful or harmful? You might say, "I think social media can be helpful, but only when people use it intentionally." The main advantage is that it allows people to communicate, learn, and share information quickly. For example, someone can discover educational content or build a business without having access to traditional resources. However, social media can also waste time and create unhealthy comparison when people use it without limits. For this reason, I believe the platform itself is not always the problem. The way people use it determines the result. This structure allows you to speak for longer without losing direction. Use it with topics such as remote work, online education, artificial intelligence, city life, school uniforms, travel, money, and success. The 16th exercise is called the story in 6 steps. Stories are valuable because they create a natural chain. You do not need to invent the next sentence, you only need to remember what happened next. Use 6 steps. Where and when did it happen? What were you doing? What unexpected event occurred? How did you react? What happened in the end? What did you learn? For example, last month I was traveling to an important appointment when my car suddenly stopped working. At first I became nervous because I was already running late. I called a friend, explained the situation, and asked whether they could take me. Fortunately, they were nearby and arrived within 15 minutes. I reached the appointment slightly late, but everything went well. The experience taught me to leave earlier for important events and keep an emergency contact available. Practice ordinary stories. They do not need to be dramatic. Tell stories about missing a bus, meeting an old friend, cooking something unsuccessfully, receiving good news, solving a technical problem, or forgetting an important item. The purpose is learning to organize events quickly. The 17th exercise is called the same idea in 3 lengths. Fluency is not only the ability to speak for a long time, it is also the ability to adjust the answer to the situation. Take the question. Why are you learning English? Give a short answer. I am learning English because I want better professional opportunities. Give a medium answer. I am learning English because I want better professional opportunities and more confidence at work. I often understand conversations, but my answers still come too slowly. Give a longer answer. I am learning English because it can create better professional opportunities and help me communicate more confidently. At the moment, I understand many discussions, but my replies sometimes arrive too slowly because I translate and check every sentence. I am now practicing spontaneous speaking so I can respond while the conversation is still moving. This exercise gives you control. You learn that the same idea can be expressed briefly or developed more deeply. The 18th exercise is the daily 10-minute accelerator. Your daily practice does not need to last several hours. A focused 10-minute routine can produce real progress when it trains the correct skills. For the first 2 minutes, answer 2 simple questions within 3 seconds. For the next 2 minutes, repeat 1 answer and improve its organization. For the next 2 minutes, practice paraphrasing 3 missing words. For the next 2 minutes, answer 1 unexpected follow-up question without restarting. For the final 2 minutes, listen to your recording and identify 1 strong moment and 1 improvement. This short routine trains speed, structure, vocabulary retrieval, recovery, and self-awareness. A longer optional routine can include voice messages, story practice, or situation simulation, but the 10-minute version is enough to maintain daily consistency. The 19th exercise is called Review 1 Weakness at a Time. After practicing, you may notice many problems. Perhaps your grammar was imperfect, vocabulary was repetitive, pronunciation was unclear, examples were weak, and pauses were long. Do not attack every weakness at once. Choose one. If your replies begin too slowly, focus on the first sentence. If your answers remain short, practice reasons and examples. If words disappear, practice paraphrasing. If you restart after mistakes, use the no restart rule. If your answers become disorganized, use a clear beginning, middle, and conclusion. If you repeat the same connector, rotate a small group of alternatives. Focused improvement is easier for the brain to manage. The 20th exercise is the weekly real-time test. At the end of each week, choose 5 questions you have not prepared. Record your answers. Measure the following. How long did it take you to begin? Could you state 1 clear main idea? Did you give a reason or example? Could you continue after a mistake? Did you paraphrase when a word was missing? Did you finish the answer clearly? Do not compare yourself with a native speaker. Compare this week's process with your previous process. Perhaps you still make grammar mistakes, but you begin faster. Perhaps your vocabulary remains simple, but your ideas are better connected. Perhaps you pause, but you no longer restart. These are meaningful signs of progress. Speaking speed is not only faster pronunciation, it is faster access, quicker decisions, clearer structure, and calmer recovery. The final exercise in this chapter is the 5-minute real conversation simulation. Choose one topic you care about. Imagine another person is listening. Speak for 5 minutes without using a written script. During the first minute, introduce your main idea. During the second minute, explain the reason. During the third minute, give a personal example or story. During the fourth minute, discuss another side or difficulty. During the fifth minute, describe your lesson, solution, or next step. Possible topics include the habit that has changed you most, the biggest challenge in learning English, a decision you are proud of, how technology has affected your life, what makes communication successful, a goal you want to achieve in the next year. If your mind becomes blank, use a bridge. If a word disappears, explain it. If you make a mistake, continue. If you move away from the topic, return to the main question. If the answer becomes repetitive, give a real example. If you finish early, ask yourself a follow-up question. When the 5 minutes end, do not begin by criticizing everything. Identify what improved. Perhaps your first sentence arrived quickly. Perhaps you remained calm during a pause. Perhaps you used a simple word instead of stopping for an advanced one. Perhaps you discovered an idea while speaking. These moments prove that real-time English is developing. Your brain is not becoming faster through pressure alone. It is becoming faster through repeated successful retrieval. Every quick beginning strengthens the path from question to response. Every spoken example strengthens the path from idea to explanation. Every paraphrase strengthens the path around a missing word. Every calm correction strengthens the ability to continue. Every conversation simulation teaches your mind that English can remain active even when the answer is not fully prepared. Do not wait until you feel ready for real conversations. Use controlled practice to create readiness. Begin alone. Record yourself. Answer unexpected questions. Send voice messages. Speak with one supportive person. Join a small discussion. Increase the pressure gradually. Your mind will learn that another person's attention does not have to erase your English. Before finishing this chapter, remember the most important rule of the real-time workout. Do not practice only the English you can already produce comfortably. Practice the moment where your answer normally becomes slow. That moment is your training ground. When you hesitate, begin simply. When you translate, reduce the thought. When you forget a word, paraphrase. When you make a mistake, continue. When you lose direction, return to the main point. When fear tells you to remain silent, release one clear sentence. Your English will not become faster because you keep studying it silently. It will become faster because you repeatedly ask your brain to find it, organize it, and speak it while the moment is still alive. Train the reply. Train the recovery. Train the follow-up. Train the pressure. And every day, make your English arrive a little sooner. Chapter 7. Build a brain that speaks English in real time. You have now learned why your English replies arrive too slowly, how complete translation delays your voice, how to begin within 3 seconds, how to retrieve vocabulary more quickly, how to keep speaking while your next idea develops, and how to train these skills under realistic conversational pressure. But the final goal is greater than using a few speaking techniques during practice. The real transformation happens when these techniques begin joining together and become the natural way your brain responds whenever English enters your life. You do not want to spend every conversation consciously telling yourself to use a bridge, find an example, paraphrase a word, and create a conclusion. These methods are necessary during training, but eventually they must become automatic. Your brain should begin producing English without requiring a long private process before every sentence. You should hear a question, understand the central meaning, choose one simple direction, and begin responding while the conversation is still alive. This is what it means to build a real-time English brain. A real-time English brain is not a brain that speaks at extreme speed. It is not a brain that never pauses, never forgets vocabulary, and never makes grammatical mistakes. It is a brain that can remain connected to meaning while speaking. It begins before the complete answer is prepared, uses familiar language without rejecting it for being simple, develops thoughts one sentence at a time, and finds another route whenever the original sentence becomes difficult. The first transformation begins when you stop seeing English as information you must retrieve perfectly and start seeing it as a tool you can use flexibly. For many years, you may have treated English like a school subject. You learned rules, memorized words, completed exercises, and waited for someone to judge whether your answer was correct. This approach can make you careful, but real conversation requires something different. It requires you to use English to react, explain, disagree, describe, ask, clarify, remember, and connect with another person. During a real conversation, nobody is waiting for you to demonstrate every grammar rule you have studied. They want to understand what you think, what happened, how you feel, or what you need. This means your first responsibility is not perfection. Your first responsibility is communication. Imagine someone asks, "What has been your biggest difficulty in learning English?" A school-trained mind may begin searching for the most advanced sentence, checking which tense is required, and worrying whether the answer sounds intelligent enough. A real-time communication mind begins with the meaning. My biggest difficulty has been answering quickly during conversations. Now it develops the idea. I usually understand the question, but I spend too much time translating and checking the sentence before I speak. Then it gives an example. For example, during meetings, I sometimes prepare a good answer inside my mind, but another person speaks before I am ready. Then it explains the lesson. I have realized that I need to practice starting with simple English instead of waiting for a complete perfect answer. This response may contain ordinary vocabulary, but it succeeds because the meaning moves clearly from one sentence to the next. Your second transformation is learning to trust the English that appears first. Many learners already receive a useful answer quickly, but they reject it. They think it sounds too basic, too short, or too ordinary. They begin searching for something more impressive, and that search creates the delay they want to remove. Someone asks, "What do you enjoy doing in your free time?" The first answer appears, "I enjoy walking." Instead of speaking, you may think that this answer is too simple. You search for a more interesting hobby, advanced vocabulary, or a longer beginning. While searching, you become nervous. Trust the first useful thought. I enjoy walking, especially in the evening. Now develop it. It helps me clear my mind after a busy day, and I usually leave my phone in my pocket so I can think without distraction. Sometimes I use that time to reflect on my goals or practice simple English thoughts. The first answer was not weak, it was only unfinished. A simple thought can become a strong answer when you explain it. Real-time fluency grows when you stop rejecting useful language simply because it is not advanced. The third transformation is learning to begin with direction instead of detail. Before speaking, you do not need every example, sentence, and conclusion. You only need to know the general direction of the answer. If someone asks whether technology improves education, your direction may be, yes, but only when students use it actively. That is enough to begin. I think technology can improve education, but only when students use it actively. Now explain. It gives learners access to lessons, books, teachers, and information that may not be available locally. Then add the concern. However, watching lessons passively does not guarantee learning because students still need to practice, question, and apply what they receive. Then conclude. So technology is a powerful tool, but it cannot replace personal effort. You did not need to prepare the entire answer. The direction created the structure. When a question feels difficult, reduce your task. Do not ask yourself, "What complete answer should I give?" Ask, "What is my general direction? Do I agree or disagree? What is the main reason? What experience can I share? What problem can I explain? What solution can I suggest?" Once you choose the direction, your English has somewhere to move. The fourth transformation is learning to think in speaking-sized ideas. Your mind may be capable of creating large, complicated thoughts, but your spoken English becomes faster when those thoughts are divided into manageable units. Suppose your complete thought is, "I believe people often fail to become fluent because they depend too heavily on passive learning, fear mistakes, avoid unpredictable conversations, and expect confidence to appear before they begin practicing." Do not force all of this into one sentence. Say, "Many learners depend too heavily on passive study." Then continue. "They spend a lot of time listening and reading, but they rarely practice creating spontaneous answers." Add another point. "They may also avoid speaking because they are afraid of mistakes." Explain the result. Because of this, their understanding improves, but their real-time communication remains slow. Finish with the lesson. They need to use English before they feel completely confident, because confidence grows through repeated speaking. Your thinking remains deep, but the language becomes easier to produce and easier to understand. One idea per sentence does not make your English childish. It makes your message controlled. The fifth transformation is learning to prepare only the next step. When you begin speaking, do not mentally jump to the final conclusion. keep your attention close to the current idea. If you say, I recently started waking up earlier, prepare only the reason. I started because my mornings often felt rushed. Now prepare only the change. I decided to wake up 30 minutes earlier and avoid checking my phone immediately. Now prepare the result. This gives me enough time to plan the day and begin my first task calmly. Now prepare the lesson. I have learned that a small change in the morning can improve the rest of the day. You did not carry the full answer from the beginning. You carried one connection at a time. This method prevents mental overload because your brain is not trying to speak, monitor grammar, watch the listener, and plan 5 future sentences at once. During conversation, stay close to the sentence you are speaking. Ask only, what is the next useful part? The 6th transformation is developing automatic speaking pads. You do not need to memorize complete answers, but you should make common communication patterns familiar enough to appear without translation. For opinions, I think the main point is, from my perspective, I would say, for reasons. The main reason is, one reason for this is, this happens because, for examples. For example, a good example is, in my own experience, for contrasts. However, on the other hand, at the same time, for results. Because of this, as a result, this has helped me for recovery. What I mean is, let me explain that more simply. The exact word is not coming to me, but for conclusions. For this reason, overall, I believe, the main lesson is, these expressions should not become empty memorized sounds. They should become reliable roads that allow new meaning to move quickly. When you say, a good example is, your brain knows it must search for a specific situation. When you say, however, your mind searches for another side. When you say, because of this, it searches for a result. The phrase gives your thought a job, reducing the number of decisions your brain must make. The 7th transformation is building topic networks instead of memorizing speeches. A memorized speech is fragile. It works only when the question matches your preparation. If the listener asks something slightly different, the entire answer may collapse. A topic network is flexible. It contains several connected areas you can combine depending on the question. Take the topic of learning English. Your network might include why you began learning, your biggest difficulty, a method that helped, a mistake you made, a recent improvement, a future goal, a situation where you need English. Now imagine different questions. Why are you learning English? Use your reason and future goal. What is your biggest challenge? Use your difficulty and a personal example. What method helps you most? Use your practice method and recent improvement. How has English changed your life? Use your experience and confidence. What advice would you give another learner? Use your mistake and lesson. You are not repeating one memorized speech. You are moving through familiar territory. Create topic networks for areas that often appear in your real life, your work, your education, your hometown, your family, your habits, your goals, technology, health, travel, success, friendship. For each topic, practice several angles rather than one fixed answer. The more familiar the territory becomes, the faster your brain can choose a road through it. The 8th transformation is shifting your attention away from yourself and toward the message. Many learners become slow around other people because too much attention turns inward. They think, does my accent sound strange? Was that grammar correct? Does this person think my English is weak? What if I forget the next word? Am I taking too long? While your brain monitors your performance, it has less attention available for understanding the question and creating a response. Bring your attention back to the message. What is the person asking? What do they need to understand? What is your main idea? What example would make it clear? What question can you ask them? Communication becomes faster when you stop watching yourself from outside and begin participating from inside the conversation. Suppose someone tells you, I am thinking about changing my career. If your attention is trapped inside your own English, you may only say, oh, that is good. But if your attention moves toward their meaning, curiosity creates language. What is making you consider the change? They answer, I do not feel that I am growing in my current role. Now you can respond, that makes sense. Feeling stuck can make work difficult even when the salary is good. Do you already know which direction you want to explore? The conversation begins creating your next sentences because you are listening to another human being rather than performing an English test. The 9th transformation is accepting that conversation belongs to both people. You do not need to speak continuously for several minutes in every interaction. Strong conversation includes responding, asking, listening, clarifying, and building on the other person's ideas. You can keep a conversation alive with connected questions. What made you feel that that way? Has this happened before? What did you do next? Would you make the same decision again? How has the experience changed you? What are you planning to do now? Follow-up questions reduce pressure because you are not carrying the entire interaction alone. They also give you new vocabulary and ideas for your next response. However, do not ask questions only to escape speaking. Listen to the answer and add something meaningful. The person says, "I started exercising because I wanted more energy." You can respond, "I understand that. I also noticed that regular movement improves my concentration, not only my physical energy. What kind of exercise has worked best for you?" You connected their idea to your experience and then returned the conversation to them. This is real conversational fluency. The 10th transformation is making recovery automatic. Your English will not always move smoothly. A word will disappear. A sentence will become too complicated. You will forget the original question or realize your example is unclear. Your goal is not preventing every difficult moment. Your goal is becoming someone who knows what to do next. If the word disappears, describe it. If the sentence becomes difficult, simplify it. If your direction disappears, return to the main point. If the listener looks confused, explain it differently. If you make a grammar mistake, correct it briefly or continue. If the answer becomes repetitive, add a specific example. If the topic feels too large, choose one smaller angle. If you genuinely do not know, be honest and explain what you do understand. Useful recovery language should become part of your speaking identity. What I mean is, let me explain that more clearly. A better way to say it is, the exact word is not coming to me, but to give you an example, returning to the main point. So the most important thing is, confidence grows when you know that a difficult moment does not have the power to end your voice. The 11th transformation is replacing perfectionism with useful correction. Perfectionism tells you not to speak until the sentence is completely safe. Improvement tells you to speak, observe, review, and return with a stronger version. These are completely different learning systems. Perfectionism says, do not make a mistake. Improvement says, notice which mistake repeats and practice it. Perfectionism says, your first attempt must sound fluent. Improvement says, your first attempt reveals what needs training. Perfectionism says, simple vocabulary proves weakness. Improvement says, simple vocabulary keeps the meaning moving. Perfectionism delays action. Improvement uses action to create progress. After a speaking practice, review your recording with purpose. Do not say, my English is terrible. Ask, where did my answer begin too slowly? Which word disappeared? Did I repeat the same idea? Where did the structure become unclear? Which grammar mistake appeared several times? What recovery method worked well? Choose one weakness and practice it. A mistake becomes valuable when it gives you a clear next action. The 12th transformation is understanding that speed grows from familiarity. Your brain becomes fast at processes it repeats often. If you repeatedly translate entire thoughts, translation becomes automatic. If you repeatedly wait for perfect wording, hesitation becomes automatic. If you repeatedly restart after mistakes, surrender becomes automatic. But the opposite is also true. If you repeatedly begin with one simple idea, quick beginning becomes automatic. If you repeatedly retrieve vocabulary aloud, active recall becomes faster. If you repeatedly paraphrase missing words, recovery becomes natural. If you repeatedly develop answers through reasons and examples, expansion becomes automatic. If you repeatedly speak under gradually increasing pressure, real conversations become less threatening. You are not permanently slow. You are currently trained in a slow process. Change the process, repeat the new process, and your brain will begin changing with it. The 13th transformation is practicing English before you need it. Do not wait until an interview, meeting, phone call, or unexpected conversation to discover whether your English is ready. Create real-time speaking moments throughout your day. Before work, explain your priorities. I have 3 important tasks today. The first one requires the most concentration, so I want to finish it before checking messages. The second task depends on information from another person. If I receive it on time, I should complete everything before the evening. After a conversation, reflect. The conversation went better than I expected. I hesitated at the beginning, but once I explained the main idea, the next sentences became easier. I forgot one word, but I described the meaning and continued. While solving a problem, speak through the process. The main problem is that I do not have enough information. I should first check the instructions and then contact the person responsible. If the information is still unavailable, I need to find a temporary solution. Before sleeping, review the day. One thing I did well today was answering an unexpected question without remaining silent. My grammar was not perfect, but I communicated the meaning. Tomorrow, I want to practice the same topic and make the explanation clearer. These private English moments train your brain to organize real experiences without waiting for formal practice. The 14th transformation is creating a pressure-resistant speaking ladder. You may speak confidently alone but become slow when another person is present. This does not mean your private practice has failed. It means your training must gradually include social pressure. Begin with speaking alone, then record yourself. Next, send voice messages to someone you trust. After that, have a short conversation with one supportive person. Then answer questions without preparation. Next, join a small group conversation. Later, contribute during a meeting, class, or online discussion. Eventually, practice presentations or interviews. Move gradually. Every stage gives your brain evidence that English remains available under slightly greater pressure. Do not wait until fear completely disappears. Fear often becomes smaller after repeated participation. Your goal is not feeling perfectly calm before speaking. Your goal is learning that you can speak while some nervousness is still present. The 15th transformation is using a 3-part real-time answer. When you do not know how to organize an unexpected response, use 3 stages. Give the main idea. Support it. Finish it. Suppose someone asks, "What is the best way to build confidence?" Main idea. I think confidence grows through repeated action. Support. When people wait to feel completely ready, they often avoid the experiences that could make them stronger. For example, an English learner may feel nervous before every conversation, but each time they speak and survive a mistake, the fear becomes smaller. Finish. So confidence does not always come before action. It is often the result of action. This structure can help with almost any ordinary question. Main idea, reason or example, lesson or conclusion. Do not make the structure complicated. A simple map can protect your reply when pressure is high. The 16th transformation is learning to think aloud honestly. Sometimes you will receive a question you have never considered. You may believe that saying "I do not know" is the only honest answer. You can explore the question without pretending to have complete certainty. Someone asks, "Do you think people will communicate less face-to-face in the future?" Begin honestly. I have not thought deeply about that, but I believe face-to-face communication may become less common in some areas. Explore the reason. Digital communication is faster and more convenient, especially when people live far apart. Add another side. However, I do not think technology can completely replace physical presence because trust, emotion, and connection often feel different when people are together. Finish. So the amount of face-to-face communication may decrease, but its importance could become even greater. You did not need a prepared answer. You needed permission to think while speaking. Useful openings include, "My first reaction is, I can see 2 possible sides. I have not considered this before, but from what I understand, at the moment, I would say." These phrases allow uncertainty to become conversation rather than silence. The 17th transformation is becoming comfortable with ordinary human speech. Real speech contains pauses, repetitions, corrections, and changes of direction. When you listen to fluent speakers carefully, you will notice that they do not always produce perfect textbook sentences. They may say, "Actually, let me explain that differently. What I mean is, I was going to say one thing, but the word is not coming to me." That reminds me of, these moments do not destroy their fluency because their communication remains active. Do not compare your spontaneous English with someone else's carefully edited video, scripted speech, or polished final recording. Compare real conversation with real conversation. Your answer is allowed to sound human. You may pause to think. You may simplify. You may correct yourself. You may discover a better example halfway through. You may change your opinion. The goal is not removing every natural imperfection. The goal is preventing those imperfections from turning into complete silence. The 18th transformation is developing a new speaking identity. Your old identity may say, "I understand English, but I cannot respond quickly. My brain is naturally slow. I always forget words. I need preparation before I can speak. I become a beginner around confident people." These statements may feel true because they describe repeated experiences, but they can become instructions that control your future behavior. Replace them with identities connected to action. I am training myself to begin before the full answer is ready. I can use simple English to carry complex meaning. I know how to explain a word when I cannot remember it. I can continue after making a mistake. I become faster every time I practice retrieval. I am learning to speak while thinking. Do not repeat these lines without action. Prove them. Every time you answer within 3 seconds, you prove that you can begin. Every time you paraphrase, you prove that one missing word cannot silence you. Every time you finish an unexpected answer, you prove that you can think in real time. Every time you contribute during a conversation, you create evidence for your new identity. Identity changes when repeated actions give you a new story about yourself. The 19th transformation is measuring real progress correctly. Do not judge your development only by speaking speed or grammatical perfection. Ask, do I begin faster than before? Can I give one clear main idea? Can I expand with a reason or example? Can I keep speaking when one word disappears? Can I correct a mistake without restarting? Can I understand and answer follow-up questions? Can I speak with another person instead of only practicing alone? Can I finish an answer clearly? Can I remain calm during a short pause? These signs show that your English is becoming available in real time. You may still make mistakes while improving in every important area. Do not ignore meaningful progress because perfection has not arrived. The 20th transformation is following a 30-day acceleration plan. During the first 5 days, practice quick beginnings. Choose 5 simple questions each day and begin answering within 3 seconds. Keep the responses short and clear. During days 6 to 10, expand every answer through one reason and one example. Focus on developing simple ideas rather than searching for advanced vocabulary. During days 11 to 15, practice vocabulary retrieval. Choose useful chunks, create personal examples, and paraphrase words you cannot remember. During days 16 to 20, use the no restart rule. Record 2-minute answers and continue through mistakes, missing words, and pauses. During days 21 to 25, practice unexpected follow-up questions. Allow each question to change the direction of your answer. During days 26 to 30, increase the pressure, send voice messages, speak with another person, join a small discussion, or simulate interviews and meetings. At the end of 30 days, answer the same 5 questions you answered on the first day. Compare the recordings. Your grammar may not be perfect, but listen for the deeper change. Does your first sentence arrive faster? Do your ideas connect more naturally? Do you sound less afraid of pauses? Can you paraphrase instead of stopping? Does your answer feel more alive? That is the evidence that the accelerator is working. The 21st transformation is learning to protect consistency. One powerful practice session cannot permanently change your speaking. Real-time English grows through frequent retrieval. A focused 15-minute routine can be enough. Begin with 2 3-second replies. Repeat one answer and improve it. Practice 3 useful vocabulary chunks. Paraphrase 2 missing words. Answer 1 unexpected question for 2 minutes without restarting. Review 1 strength and 1 weakness. This routine may feel small, but repeated daily, it teaches your brain that English must be ready often. Do not create a routine so difficult that you follow it for 3 days and then stop. A short routine you can repeat is stronger than an ambitious plan you cannot maintain. The 20-second transformation is allowing your answers to change while speaking. You may begin with one view and discover a more accurate one during your explanation. This is not failure. Suppose someone asks whether money creates happiness. You begin, I think money can create happiness because it gives people freedom. Then your idea becomes more balanced. Actually, a better way to express it is that money can reduce certain kinds of stress and create more choices. However, it cannot automatically create meaningful relationships, purpose, or emotional peace. Finish. So money can improve the conditions of life, but it cannot guarantee a fulfilling life. Your answer developed honestly. Real thinking is allowed to move. Do not demand a final perfect opinion before your first sentence. The 23rd transformation is listening for opportunities to enter conversation. Real-time speaking is not only answering direct questions, it also means recognizing when you can contribute. Someone says, learning a language requires a lot of patience. You can connect. I agree, especially because progress is not always visible immediately. Sometimes learners improve gradually but do not notice it until they return to something that once felt difficult. Someone says, working from home is easier. You can add, it can definitely save time, although I think it also requires stronger self-discipline because the boundary between work and personal life can disappear. Someone tells a story. I missed an important flight because of traffic. You can respond, that must have been extremely stressful. What happened after you reached the airport? You do not need an invitation to deliver a perfect speech. You need one relevant connection. Listen for an idea you understand. Agree, add, contrast, ask, or share a similar experience. That is how participation begins. The 24th transformation is becoming willing to be seen learning. You may speak comfortably alone because nobody can judge the sentence. Around people, your brain slows down because mistakes become visible. You cannot develop public fluency while protecting yourself from every visible imperfection. At some point, another person must hear you searching for a word, correcting a tense, simplifying an idea, or pausing to think. This does not make you weak. It makes you a real learner using the language. Most reasonable people are not analyzing every mistake. They are following your meaning. Even when they notice an error, the conversation can continue. You do not need to prove that your English is complete. You need to show that your communication is alive. The 25th transformation is trusting that speed will follow clarity. Do not force yourself to speak so quickly that your pronunciation becomes unclear and your ideas become disconnected. First, reduce the delay before beginning. Then improve the connection between sentences. Then allow natural speaking speed to grow through repetition. A slower, clear answer is more useful than a fast, confusing one. The title of this book is The English Brain Accelerator. But acceleration does not mean rushing. It means removing unnecessary mental steps. You stop translating every complete thought. You stop rejecting simple language. You stop preparing the full answer before beginning. You stop treating one missing word as an emergency. You stop restarting after every mistake. You stop monitoring yourself more than the conversation. When these unnecessary steps become smaller, your English naturally arrives sooner. The final transformation is becoming the person whose English arrives on time. This person is not perfect. This person may still feel nervous. This person may still forget a word. This person may still choose the wrong tense and correct it. But this person no longer waits outside the conversation. When asked a question, they choose one clear direction. When their first sentence is ready, they release it. While speaking, they prepare the next idea. When the vocabulary disappears, they explain the meaning. When the answer becomes unclear, they return to the main point. When the listener responds, they listen and build from it. When the idea is complete, they finish confidently. This is the speaker you are becoming. Before ending this chapter, complete one final real-time challenge. Answer this question: how do I want my English to change during the next year? Give yourself 3 seconds. Begin. I want my English to become faster and more natural during real conversations. Now explain the current problem. At the moment, I understand many questions, but I sometimes take too long to organize my reply. Give the main cause. This happens because I translate too much and try to make every sentence perfect before speaking. Describe what you have learned. I now understand that I can begin with one simple idea and develop the answer while I speak. State your plan. I will practice spontaneous questions, useful vocabulary chunks, paraphrasing, and conversations under gradually increasing pressure. Finish with your new identity. 1 year from now, I want to be someone who trusts the English already inside my mind and uses it before the moment disappears. Now answer again without reading these sentences. Keep only the meaning. Let your language change. Use your own experience. Continue after mistakes. That is the real test. You do not need to remember this chapter word for word. You need to use its principles when no script is in front of you. Hear the question. Choose the direction. Begin with one clear thought. Let the answer grow. Real-time English is not a talent that belongs only to naturally fast speakers. It is a trained response. Every question you answer strengthens it. Every word you retrieve strengthens it. Every mistake you survive strengthens it. Every conversation you enter strengthens it. You have spent enough time preparing English after the moment has already passed. Now train your voice to arrive while the conversation is still alive. Let the first sentence be simple. Let the second sentence become clearer. Let the third sentence carry the example. Let the final sentence complete your meaning. Do not wait for your whole English future to become visible. Use the next word you know, then the next one, and become the speaker who responds in real time. You have reached the end of the English Brain Accelerator. But your real transformation begins with the next unexpected question someone asks you. In that moment, do not wait for the complete answer. Do not translate every thought, search for perfect grammar, or reject the simple English already available inside your mind. Begin with one clear sentence. Let that sentence create a reason, an example, or another connected thought. And when a word disappears, explain it differently instead of allowing the entire conversation to disappear with it. Remember, speaking faster does not mean rushing. It means removing the unnecessary fear and overthinking that delay your real voice. Every quick beginning will strengthen your response. Every imperfect answer will weaken hesitation. Every conversation you enter will teach your brain that English is not only something you understand, it is something you can produce in real time. So after this audiobook ends, answer one question aloud within 3 seconds. Let the first sentence be simple, but do not remain silent. If you are ready to stop arriving late to English conversations, write "My English will arrive on time" in the comments and make it your promise to practice. Thank you for listening to the English Brain Accelerator, published by English Mindset Academy. The question will come, the moment will open, and this time, your English will be ready.